have the speakers list?
I do. And me. I've got you on there. Let's see here. You are number 19.
Lovely. Thank you.
You're welcome. But I totally right. Find anybody that knew?
Good evening and welcome to the Tuesday, May 3rd, 2022 School Board Regular Meeting. The time is now 6 p.m. The school board would like to take this moment to respectfully acknowledge we are residing on the traditional land of the Dene people. Our mission is to provide an excellent, equitable education in a safe, supportive environment so all students will succeed and contribute to a diverse and changing society. We will be led by by Miss Murati for the Pledge of Allegiance. Please stand.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Ms. Tuttle, can we please get a roll call?
Mr. Rhodes is expected. Colonel Williamson by Zoom.
Here.
Thank you. Colonel Siri is excused. Mr. Sampson is expected. Mrs. Matheson is excused. Mr. Doran is excused. Mrs. Sanderson.
Here.
Thank you. Miss Marati.
Here.
Thank you. Mrs. Smith.
Here.
Thank you. Mrs. Luke.
Here.
Thank you. The board has a quorum.
Thank you. We've got an incredible opportunity this evening to recognize our 2021-2022 school district retirees. And we, as board members, are going to go to the podium and do this presentation. And I will start by going over there. All right. Like I said, we are very excited to be able to thank and recognize these employees who have retired or have provided their notice of intent to retire this school year. As of April 25th, 2022, their names are included below. When notified about the recognition, retirees were welcome to share a favorite story or memory. Board members will share the names and service of all this year's district retirees and where submitted, the memories provided by them. A few facts and figures before we begin announcing our retirees. Currently, 81 staff members have either already retired or plan to retire at the end of the school year. But it should be noted, longevity abounds in our district and is something for all of us to be proud of. To date, based solely on their employment time with our school district and not their total time in education, our longest serving staff member is Tammy Smith, a special education teacher at Barnett Magnet School, who will be retiring after 34 years with the district. That's incredible. Additionally, this year, and again, we are talking strictly about employment with the Fairbanks North Star Borough School District. We have 11 employees retiring with 30 or more years, 18 staff members with 25 to 29 years, and 25 employees with 20 to 24 years. All total this year, we are bidding farewell to 1,717 years of district experience, which doesn't include all the years our retirees may have dedicated to education in other districts. As a small token of appreciation, our retirees were offered the district's Marble Apple Retirement Gift, which is here on the podium. The retirement gifts will be delivered to staff members prior to the end of the school term. Included in each award is an expression of our appreciation for the dedication and service our staff members have provided through the years. I'd like to read the verse. For generations past, present, and future, the apple is an expression of respect, gratitude, and love for those special people who have helped guide us, shape us, and made a difference in our lives. Congratulations to our special people retiring this year. And I will be starting us off. First, we have John Adams, a network administrator with Network and Computer Services, who retired in January after 20 years with the school district. If you ever used the school district phone system, there was a good chance John helped program it. Thank you, John, for maintaining our lines of communication. Linda Allen, a speech pathologist assistant at Lathrop High School, will be retiring with 20 years of district service when she retires in May. Michael Angayak, our principal at Ann Ween Elementary School, will be retiring in June after 25 years of service to the district. Michael shared, I am a K-12 product and graduate of our public schools, having attended Old University Park Elementary, Old Ryan Middle School, and pre-renovated West Valley High School. After college, I returned to our district and taught for 13 years at Ann Ween Elementary, then became principal for 3 years at Tickasuk Brown, before returning to Ann Ween for these past 9 years as principal. All of these years means I've spent a majority of my life within the walls of our schools. 38 of my 48 years on this planet of my I-ready math is accurate. I'm now going to take what I've learned over these past 25 years to become a professor at UAF's School of Education to support our next generation of teachers. I can say unequivocally that learning alongside the students and staff of our school district has been the joy and pride of my life. In the Yupik language, we don't have a word for goodbye. The closest translation is simply, see you later. So this is not a goodbye, but a see you later. Best wishes to all of you. Next, we have James Balco, more affectionately known as Coach Balco, retired this past February after 18 years. Coach asked the board to share his appreciation and the following with everyone. I want to thank my fellow Bridge coworkers for working hard to put the students first. Carmen Glenn, David Drumhiller, Kim Bookie, Monica Kaufman, Jacqueline Oates, Zachary Jackson, Ashley Wicker, Roberta Mills, Robin Wong, and our leaders, Lori Swanson and Derek Correll. Thank you, Jim. Go, Coach. We wish you the best. Leanna Barron, a West Valley High School world language teacher, will be retiring at the end of the school year with 21 years of district service. Thank you, Leanna, for your service. Paula Batano Everetts is retiring from her position as a West Valley High School counselor after 23 years in the district. Catherine Bauda closed out her 24-year teaching career when she retired from Golden Heart Academy last December. Congratulations. Tamara Boyd is the first member of the 30-year-plus group as she retires in May after 31 years dedicated to the school district. Tamara will be retiring from her position as attendance secretary at Arctic Light Elementary School. Donna Bradel Boylan, an extended resource aide at Pearl Creek Elementary School, is retiring at the end of the school year with 14 years of district service. David Brannon is closing out his 15-year district career as he retires in May from his teaching position at Ben Eielson Junior Senior High School. He has worked as an instructional technologist and science computer teacher, along with coaching track and cross-country running. David said he would miss being around the young people who are full of energy, hopes, and wonderful dreams and aspirations. He will also miss the high-caliber professionals he works with who are constantly making the impossible possible. Tori Brennan, our Sawchuck Elementary School principal, will be ending her 15-year district career as she retires from her leadership position at the end of the school year. Tori said, a memorable experience of my time at Sawchuck School was competing and interviewing for my administrator position 4 times. Interim principal, which changed to head teacher for 2 years, then back to interim principal, and finally to permanent principal, and being offered the position each and every time. A true test in grit, perseverance, and love for our school. Richard Brenner, a 26-year district teacher, will be closing out his district career as he retires from the physical education position at Ann Ween Elementary School. Roxanne Berger, another member of the 30-year-plus group, currently works in our administrative center as an accounts payable clerk. She will be starting her retirement this summer after a 30-year career with the district. When asked to share a favorite memory, Roxanne shared, I started with Central Kitchen when it was located on Eielson Air Force Base. Then I worked at Taylor Elementary, Pennell Elementary, Anderson Elementary, Crawford Elementary, and Ben Eielson Junior Senior High. Things change. Pennell closed and the buildings were given back to the Air Force. Taylor was torn down and Crawford was built. There were great people and moments at each school, but Taylor was a favorite. The staff was good, and you could step out of the office and looking left and right and see all of the classrooms. Ending my career in the accounting department has been fun, a good group of coworkers, and a pleasant way to finish up. All in all, it's been a great career. Thank you. Janine Burnett, Denali Elementary School Administrative Secretary, is finishing her district career after 16 years. Laura Bush will be retiring in May from her position as a classroom tutor after 5 years with the district and its students. Lisa Casey, North Pole Elementary School second grade teacher, has spent 26 years dedicated to teaching the children of our community as she retires in May. Next, we will have Ms. Sanderson come to the pulpit.
Good evening. I share Lisa Connor, a longtime Lathrop High School English teacher, has devoted 28 years to encouraging students to think beyond the written word on a page and teaching them to express themselves outside of the confines of pen and paper. As she retires in May, her calm and happy demeanor has been appreciated by students and colleagues alike. David Cox will be retiring in May from his position as a science teacher at West Valley High School after 25 years with this district. Martha Curtis, Midnight Sun Elementary School kindergarten teacher, is closing out her district career in May with 25 years of service. David Dillingheller, another of our 30-year retirees, will be retiring in May from his current position of a special education intensive resource aide at the Bridge program. Michael Scott Devane retired from Pearl Creek Elementary School as a physical education teacher last October after serving 17 years with the district. Dwayne Eager, a 22-year district staff member, will retire from his special social studies teaching position at Ryan Middle School when he retires at the end of the school year. George East, Lathrop High School science teacher, closes out his district career as he retires in May after serving students and the district for the past 25 years. Dana Evans, currently serving as a coordinator in our Student Support Services Department, will be retiring at the end of June after devoting the past 25 years to the district in a variety of positions. Dana shared, I have so many special memories over the last 25 years. There's no possible way I could name one. I would like to say thank you to the hundreds of families who allowed me to be a part of their children's lives and trusted me with such precious gifts. I believe I have learned more from all of you than I ever taught. It's been a wonderful journey, and I'm just thrilled to have been able to go on it. Grace Figurina, a counselor at Ann Ween Elementary School, has 23 years of district service as she retires in May. Kathleen Filgrim will be retiring at the end of the school year with 19 years of district service as she leaves her position as a counseling technician at West Valley High School. Valerie Flint, a program secretary in the special education department, will retire in May after spending the past 20 years with the district. Dave Foshi, an assistant principal at West Valley High School, will be retiring at the end of the school year after 15 years with the district. Melinda Mindy Gallagher, Effie Cochrane Charter School Alaska Native Education tutor, has spent the last 15 years with the school district and will be retiring in June. Deanne Gardner, a district-wide elementary art teacher, will be retiring in May after having spent the last 21 years with the school district. While at the Arts Center, Deanne has shared her artistic talent and love for the arts to inspire hundreds of students throughout the district. She has been a dedicated advocate for her program, focusing on the importance of arts in providing a full educational experience. Her kind and professional knowledge, leadership over the Arts Center was very much appreciated. And Brett Gerke served as our district director of procurement and warehousing for many years. He worked his entire career at the admin center. After starting his career in 1996, he finished out his 25-year career when he retired last August.
Daniel Dan Hackett will be retiring at the end of the school year from Lathrop High School after serving the past 28 years as a dedicated teacher of mathematics. Dan said, "As for stories, most of mine are too math nerdy or about teaching screw-ups where the kids laughed and not for public broadcast. So reading my name is plenty. I do absolutely thank my students, the parents, and the community because I've gotten more support than I think I deserve. The Fairbanks North Star Borough School District has been a wonderful place to teach, and I feel blessed." Lucille Hackett, another one of our 30-year veteran teachers. I will be retiring from her position as a general music teacher at Wood River Elementary School, a position she has held since 1994. Lucille has served as a general music teacher since 1992 at Hunter, Two Rivers, and Arctic Light before finding her home at Wood River. The board would like to thank Lucille for taking the time and effort to organize and bring musical groups to perform at the beginning of board meetings throughout the years. We recognize the extra work and effort it takes to make those performances happen. Lucille shared her favorite memory was when I thought a kindergartner was paying very close attention one day, and when I called on her, ready for a teachable moment, she said, "You have spots on your arms. Are you going to die?" "Because I have freckles." "Not today," I said. Another time, I was teaching cowboy songs for a concert, and when I asked my third graders if they knew what a cowboy was, one kid said, "Sure, a cowboy has chaps and sperms." Christine Hammergren has spent the last 25 years with the school district as a speech and language pathologist as she retires at the end of the school year. Lori Henneveld closed out her district career last October after serving the last 2 years as a teaching assistant at Anderson Elementary School. Lori served the district in a variety of positions, including teaching, originally beginning her time with the district in 1998. Robert Hinkst, one of our 30-year veteran staff members, closed out his district career when he retired just this past Friday. Robert left his position as the Director of Network and Computer Services. Robert may be familiar to many people as he has calmly and patiently assisted many of us through the years with computer and network problems. Because he's usually one of the first people to arrive at the office each morning, he would be the one staff called when they couldn't get signed into the web or the district website. He's extremely knowledgeable in many areas of technology and always the ultimate professional and perfect example of how to do customer service right. He always makes each person feel like they have the most important question to ever be asked, and he had all the time in the world for any question or concern you might have, even when he was in the midst of a complete outage. Thank you, Robert, for your many years of serving our district and staff. Christina Hoffman, a behavior intervention aide at University Park Elementary School, has spent the last 20 years serving students as she brings her district career to a close at the end of May. Rob Holt started his career teaching in 2013 and has spent his entire 9 years at Anderson Elementary School as a first and second grade teacher. He's retiring at the end of the school term and looks forward to tinkering around on various projects, fishing, golfing, traveling, and spending more time with his family and friends. Rob will miss the smiles and laughter of his students and all the amazing light bulb moments they have in the course of a year. Don Hovda, a longtime facilities management staff member, retired from his position as a boiler maintenance technician at the end of April, after working for the school district for the past 23 years. Jane Hunt, currently a fourth grade teacher at Midnight Sun Elementary. Jane started serving the district in 2008 as a substitute teacher prior to getting her own classroom. She will have served the district for the past 10 years as a classroom teacher when she retires at the end of the school year. Jane said the things she will miss most about being an educator are teaching the children, her colleagues, and the routine that keeps her on a schedule. Sharon Jakey will be retiring at the end of May from her sixth grade teaching position at Arctic Light Elementary School after a 17-year district career. Vaughn Jelinek, Hunter Elementary School sixth grade teacher, will have spent 21 years dedicated to the students when she retires from the district in May. She started with the district as an ELL tutor at Anween Elementary School, as well as Title III and then Title I Professional Development Coordinator in federal programs, prior to finding her home at Hunter Elementary School. Vaughn shared, "I have many wonderful memories from both working in professional development downtown and in the classroom at Hunter. Memories of learning and working with incredibly talented, dedicated, and giving professionals. There is no way that I could have done my jobs and helped students to the degree that I was able without such amazing colleagues, teachers, support staff, and supervisors. I feel truly blessed to have had the opportunities that I have and hope that I have contributed to my students' progress toward fulfilling lives." Karen Jewer Green retired in March as a 12-month custodian at North Pole Middle School after having cared for the district facilities for the past 22 years. Stephen Jones, a 12-month custodian at Hutchinson High School, retired last August, closing out his 23-year district career. Ronald Kuzaha is retiring from his position at the end of the school year as a middle school mathematics and after-school program teacher at Ryan Middle School, after spending the last 19 years with the district. Lisa Love, a special education secretary who works at Denali Elementary School and Barnett Magnet School, will be retiring at the end of May with 20 years of district service. Natalie Luther, a Ryan Middle School counselor, is closing out her district career after spending the last 27 years helping students navigate their classes and schedules, providing emotional support and resources, and a host of other duties to help them during their 2 years in middle school. And Janice Maltos has spent the last 28 years with the school district and will be retiring at the end of the school term from her teaching position at Wood River Elementary School. Janice has had a very colorful life spent in education and provides this wonderful story titled "A Few Words from an Old Teacher, Miss Janice Maltos, Baedmaesce." And it begins with, "Teaching is in my genetics and my soul. Both my parents were teachers. In our family, you are either a teacher or a truck driver. And since I'm a bad driver and good with young children, I became a teacher starting in 1988. In June of 1994, I was on vacation with 2 of my friends. I called my dad in Washington State. He told me I received a call from the Fairbanks North Star Borough School District. Excitedly, I returned the call from a payphone at the bottom of the Statue of Liberty. I was offered a job. Another page in my book of life turned a new chapter called The Frozen Teacher Years. Starting out as a special education preschool teacher at Badger Road Elementary, my earliest memory is the time I brought in a record player and played a record of 1960 Disney songs. I inherited dozens of old vinyl records from my mother, who taught kindergarten and first grade. Instantly, the tiny preschoolers gathered around the short table with the record player like a curious pack of wolves. They stood in amazement, laughing, pointing, and looking at the record as it spun out music. Who would have ever thought they had never seen or heard a record play before? Suddenly, at the age of 30, I felt old, but I was still young. When you teach, you learn. Sometimes the student teaches the teacher. About 6 years ago, I was teaching a special education preschool class, doing a lesson on emotions, and I asked a preschooler, "What makes you happy?" And the first one replied, "My mommy." The second one said, "My choo-choo." The next, "My puppy." And down the line until the last boy, age 3, answered enthusiastically, "I make myself happy." Most grown-ups take about 4 years of intense therapy to figure that one out. And there was the world's smartest 3-year-old in my special education preschool. The last 4 years, I returned back to teaching second grade. This is the most wonderful age because second graders love their teacher, love school, love to hear stories, laugh at puppets or funny voices, and understand my jokes, and they are full of imagination. Today, a boy in my class, who until recently could not independently write a sentence, wrote an entire paragraph. After I listened to him read his story to me, I praised his accomplishment, saying, "That is a wonderful story with lots of details and action. Now you just need to add a few periods." The boy smiled and said, "I know, but I don't know where to put them." Another teaching moment had arrived. Initially, I had planned to spend only 4 years in Fairbanks, but after trapping a man and building a family, I stayed much longer. Through the last 28 years, I have taught at Badger Road Elementary, aka Midnight Sun, Joy Elementary, North Pole Elementary, Hunter Elementary, Weller Elementary, and now at Wood River Elementary. After a 34 total year teaching career, including special education and general education classes in grades pre-K to 12, I'm ready to start another chapter in my book of life called Every Child Left Behind. Next August, I am not sure what I'm going to do on the first day of school for students. Like this last month of school, it will be a time of mixed emotions. Maybe I'll get up early at 6 a.m. and get dressed and go drive around really, really slow to make everyone else late for work. On a more serious note, I truly am grateful and blessed to be able to leave a job and a school district full of great memories shared with caring, dedicated staff, wonderful students, and their families. As Alan Alexander Milne said in his book, Winnie the Pooh, how lucky I am to have something that makes saying goodbye so hard.
How do you follow Miss Maltos? My goodness, what an applause. I have an idea. Leona Mcdaniels. Ms. McDaniels has served students and families of our district for the past 24 years. She is retiring at the end of the school year as a social service manager in our Student Support Services Department. Throughout Leona's career, she has helped hundreds and hundreds of students and families, seeing them through hard and trying times. It is said that her no-nonsense, get the job done, do whatever it takes to help our students' attitude and work ethic was appreciated and admired. Leona's dedication to students and families has made a lasting difference to those she has served. Christy McEwen. Ms. McEwen taught me how to better listen to the Alaska Native community, and I am forever grateful. She retired last August from her position as a music teacher at Pearl Creek Elementary School, closing out her 22-year district career. Miriam McGovern, a 20-year staff member, retired last Friday from her position as an Information Systems Support Technician 2 in our Student Information Systems Department. Miriam's knowledge and support of schools was much appreciated and will be missed. Geraldine McAnally is closing out her 23-year school district career. Geraldine will be leaving her counseling position at Hunter Elementary School, where she retires in May. Through the years, she has served as a school counselor at Two Rivers, Sawchuck Elementary, Hutchison High School, North Pole Middle School, and North Pole Middle School. Geraldine's positive attitude and focused determination has made a huge positive impact on hundreds of the community's children. Her love for her profession was evident in her dealings with students and colleagues. She will miss the joy and wonder of the students. Bruce Merritt, one of our 30-year-plus retirees. He started with the district in 1990 and served many years as a physical education teacher prior to becoming a school counselor and serving students at Ryan Middle School. Bruce's compassion for students and their well-being is evident as he works tirelessly on their behalf. He will be missed when he retires at the end of the school year. Christy Montgomery has worked for the school district for the past 27 years as a K-2 teacher and will be retiring later in May from her teaching position at Weller Elementary. Christy has been instrumental in guiding many students as they began their academic careers, encouraging a love for learning and reading. Christy said she will miss the kids, their wonder, energy, enthusiasm, sweetness, curiosity, humor, and love, and her amazing colleagues. Christina Mulready, an education specialist in our Fairbanks Best Home School, retired last December after a 17-year district career. Thank you, Christina. Connie Oba, a longtime music teacher, will be retiring at the end of this school year after sharing her musical talents, her beautiful voice, and her love for music and the arts with students across the district for the past 20 years. She has most recently served at Lathrop High School. Connie's energetic instruction and creative approach have influenced and encouraged student talents, helping to develop lifelong musicians and opening opportunities for a variety of careers in the area of music and the arts. Tim Parker. Currently, Mr. Parker is a Lathrop High School Innovations English teacher. He is retiring at the end of the school year after 24 years devoted to education. Tim shared, "I started as a student teacher at Tananall Middle School in 1997 with Jim Villano as my mentor teacher. I have loved my quarter century working in Fairbanks schools. My favorite experience is the time I have spent as the advisor for the high school newspaper at Lathrop, known as the Pay Streak. This school newspaper was first published in 1936, making this the 86th year of publication. The Pay Streak is a student-generated and taps into the genuine desire of high school students to begin engaging in the public process. During my time at Lathrop, the students published 147 issues. That's 3,000 articles. When I think about all the students in their writing, teaching each of them about ethics and the First Amendment, it's overwhelming. But the memory that stands out is the look on their faces of each student when they hand out the copies of the Pay Streak to all their other students. Nothing increases student learning more than real-world product with student ownership. Tim's impact on our students was felt across the state of Alaska, and for this we are so grateful. Young Pierce will be closing out her 29-year district career when she retires at the end of the school year from her position as a 12-month custodian at Tananall Middle School. She has worked hard to maintain the school and to provide students with a clean, safe learning environment. Kathy Port, one of our 30-year-plus retirees, will close out her school district career with a total of 32 years when she retires at the end of May from her position as the Assistant Director of Human Resources. When asked to share a memory, Kathy said, I'll take with me into my retirement the memories of all the fabulous people I have worked with over the years. The district is blessed to have so many great employees who work hard to support students and one another. My life has been immensely enriched by knowing many of them. I've enjoyed meeting people across the different schools and locations, and I'm lucky to be able to call many of them friends. I'd like to end with a favorite quote from Charlotte's Web by E.B. Webb. "You have been my friend," replied Charlotte. "That in itself is a tremendous thing." Gary Riddle, another of our 30-year-plus retirees, is retiring from his position as a computer technician in our Network and Computer Services Department after 32 years of dedicated service to the district. Gary's technology expertise has been an asset to many throughout the district. Barbara Ross retired from West Valley High School in March as a special education aide, closing out an 11-year district career. Thank you, Barbara. Barbara Santora, a district-wide art teacher, is closing out her 15-year district career at the end of the school term. She has spent most of her career sharing her love for art with students across the district and guiding young artists to be the best they can be. Wayne Sawchuck, a 25-year veteran teacher, will be retiring at the end of the month from his physical education and activities coordinator position at West Valley High School. Wayne has worked tirelessly benefiting student activities and athletics. Wayne encouraged students that no matter what, to always give their best. Mark Schilzons will be retiring at the end of the school year after serving the district in a variety of positions over the past 17 years. He has worked as a night custodian at Chinook Charter School, a custodian at Tanana Middle School, and a safety assistant at Tanana Middle School, and then Ryan Middle School, the position he currently holds. He will miss his coworkers and working with students. Sheila Schilzons is currently serving as a special education aide and clerk at Ryan Middle School. She will be retiring at the end of May with 17 years of district service. Thank you for your service to all of our students, all of the educators that are retiring, and happy Teacher Appreciation Week to our current, past, and present teachers. Thank you.
Next, we have Brian Schneider, the longtime photography and yearbook instructor at Lathrop High School, will be closing out his 24-year district career at the end of the school year. Brian's knowledge and expertise has helped his students preserve Lathrop's history through its annual yearbook. Charles Scott retired last August from his school safety assistant position at West Valley High School, a position he held for 2 years before finishing off his long district career, having served in a multitude of positions off and on since 2007. Mary Shipman, Administrative Secretary at Facilities Management, retired in February after 18 years with the district. During Mary's time with the district, she also oversaw building rentals, helping numerous organizations schedule activities, events, and practices in the district facilities. Tammy Smith, a special education teacher at Barnett Magnet School, and a member of the 30-year-plus group, has the honor of being this year's longest-serving staff member to retire. When she retires in May after devoting 34 years to teaching our community's youth and serving our staff. Tammy shared, in the 40 years I have worked as a teacher in the Fairbanks community. Starting at the Catholic Schools of Fairbanks, I have many wonderful memories from each of the 6 different elementary schools I worked in around the district, of the students, staff, and families. Overall, one special memory which stands out for me is when my 3rd grade students would perform the Fairbanks history play for their parents. The play centered around Fairbanks as a gold rush city and its pioneers. Oftentimes, many of the students had grandparents who were those pioneers. I still remember Leslie Hadukovich bringing in a wooden propeller from one of the aircraft that landed at Weeks Field, having the students learn about pioneer Charlie Creamer and visiting Creamer's Field, and going downtown to see the cornerstone where Wickersham held his first held court. Sharing these real-life experiences with the students about Fairbanks was always very endearing and enlightening. I also want to thank School Board Member Tim Doran once again for loaning me the stage for the Fairbanks History Play. It was a community effort. Finally, I want to thank the district for the years I have worked for them, both as a teacher and during my time as FEA president. I truly am grateful to have been a part of this school's community. John Spencer, one of the members of the 30-year plus group, retired this past January from his position in nutrition services as a warehouse person after 30 years of devoted service to the district and its students. Sherry Styler, a 25-year teacher, retired last December, closing out her district career as a kindergarten teacher at Arctic Light Elementary School. Anna Marie Swofer, an English teacher at the Career Education Center, will be retiring in May after a dedicated career serving students spanning the last 22 years. Deborah Thurman Hunt, a longtime district teacher, will be leaving her 6th grade teaching position when she retires at the end of the school year after dedicating the past 26 years to her students and families of the district. Lynn Vandermeer has served the students and school district for the past 17 years. She will be retiring in May as the kitchen manager at Arctic Light Elementary School. Joseph Van Hoosmissen is a science teacher at North Pole High School. Joseph will be retiring at the end of May after 15 years with the district. Cynthia Van Zant will be closing out her 8-year district career, retiring at the end of the school term for her position at North Pole Middle School as an English teacher. Timothy Walker, an English teacher at Ben Eielson Senior High School, will be retiring in May with 14 years of district service. Cherie Wolf retired last December from Lathrop High School, where she served and encouraged artists, as an art teacher for 23 years. Robert Max Wortman began his district career in 1999, spending 23 years as a school counselor at Denali Elementary School. Max said he has been fortunate to have worked with some great people who have become close friends. He will miss seeing them daily. He will really miss the atmosphere of happy, fun, hugging, laughing little people. He will also miss the gratitude and appreciation shown by parents. Sherry Young, a 23-year district teacher, will be retiring at the end of the school year from her teaching position at Crawford Elementary School, where she currently teaches 4th grade. And last, but not least in any way, Sharon Tuttle, the last member of our 30-year group, will be retiring as the executive assistant to the Board of Education after 30 years in the district. Ms. Tuttle, that was the only thing she wrote about herself. After working for 30 years, and I decided that was not enough. But I have to say that accurately describes Mrs. Tuttle. She is humble and an incredibly hard worker that refuses to have the spotlight on her. So I, with some other worker bees, did some sleuthing and found a few statistics on her time at the district that I would like to share with you all this evening. Countless lives positively impacted by Ms. Tuttle. Actually, Ms. Tuttle, come up here. Just because she's sitting right here and she never gets on the camera, she needs to be on camera. A million hours assisting the school board with our responsibilities. 10,950 days employed by the Fairbanks North Star Borough School District. 979 meetings of the school board, give or take a few. And that doesn't even include this year's board meetings. 121 more days until her last day, but who's counting? 30 years employed at the district, 16 years at her current position with the school board, 16 years married to her amazing husband, Brad, that has supported her through it all by picking her up after our meetings, sometimes at 1 o'clock in the morning. 7 superintendents that she has worked with over the years. And there's only one amazing Sharon Tuttle that will be immensely missed and never can be replaced. As you can see, Miss Sharon Tuttle may be small of stature and shrink away from the spotlight, but her impact will continue to be felt here at the district long after she retires. We will all miss you. I will miss you. Thank you for your years of service, your dedication, your friendship to all, and all of the tireless work that you do, not just for the board and administration, but for every single person here in the district. And that is for every single one of our employees who has dedicated all of those hours, all of that time, their energy, their education, their determination, their days, their summers, their nights, to the students within our district. Thank you. Also, I apologize, we also have a 30-year pendant to give to Ms. Sharon Tuttle as well. Now, Ms. Sharon Tuttle was our last retiree to be recognized and honored this evening. As we mentioned at the beginning of our recognition, the apple is an expression of respect, gratitude, and love for those special people who have helped guide us, shape us, and make a difference in our lives. Every year for the retirement recognition, and even this year again with our virtual recognition, we solicit stories from our retirees. And each and every year, we hear how our staff members, teachers, aides, custodians, secretaries, administrators, nutrition service staff, each and every single employee is an essential part of our school district's mission to provide our students an excellent and equitable education in a safe and supportive learning environment. These stories reflect how each of you have made a difference in our lives and the lives of our students. It is the expertise, commitment, and compassion of the thousands of professionals who work collaboratively day in and day out for our students who have made a difference for our present, past, and future students in the Fairbanks-North Star Borough School District, producing generations of community members who go on to enrich not only our community, but our state, our nation, and our world. On behalf of the entire Board of Education of the Fairbanks-North Star Borough School District, we would like to send our sincere appreciation and gratitude to all of our retirees. Congratulations to all of you, and all the best in whatever and wherever your retirement takes you, even if you decide to wake up at 6 o'clock in the morning and drive slowly and make everybody else late for work. We appreciate you. Can we get another round of applause for all of our retirees? I'm just grateful I was able to get through that without crying. Thank you again to all of those who have dedicated their lives and continue to dedicate your lives to the youth within our community and educating our youth and helping our youth to succeed. Next on our agenda is the adoption of the agenda. Core value, student-centered. Center everything we do on the student and student learning. Consent agenda items marked with an asterisk are considered routine items not requiring public discussion by the school board. Unless removed from the consent agenda, asterisk items will be automatically approved with the agenda when the agenda is adopted. Questions concerning these items should be brought to the administration before the meeting. If the superintendent or a member of the public wishes to have an item removed from the consent agenda, the request must be made to a board member anytime prior to the start of the meeting. The board member has the discretion to accept or deny the request. Only a board member may remove an item from the consent agenda. If an item is removed from the consent agenda, it shall be considered separately as the last item of new business. Asterisk items will then be adopted by one single motion.
Move to adopt the agenda with consent items.
Move to adopt the agenda with consent items and removing new business item H4, approval of non-represented employee group step movement stipend payment and 403B employer match to be considered at a future meeting.
Second.
Ms. Tuttle?
Colonel Williamson?
Yes.
Thank you. Mr. Rhodes?
Yes.
Thank you. Mr. Sampson?
No.
Thank you. Mrs. Matheson isn't here yet, I'm sorry. Mrs. Sanderson?
Yes.
Thank you. Ms. Marati?
Yes.
Thank you. Mrs. Smith?
Yes.
Thank you. Mrs. Luke?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carried.
Thank you. Next, we'll have the presentation on agenda items, and any person wishing to speak on an agenda item, action item, will have 2 minutes to testify when the item is before the school board for discussion. There is a limit to 1 hour total testimony per item. I apologize. Ms. Marati?
Do we have to read the consent items first?
We are. I just needed to read.
I apologize.
You're fine. Can we have the consent agenda items?
The board has approved Dickissick Brown Elementary School's request for its library to fundraise approximately $2,000 through the Buy One, Get One Scholastic Book Fair, May 9th through 13th, 2022, with proceeds to be used for makerspace and STEM activities, author visits, and the purchase of flexible library seating. And North Pole High School's request to send Junior ROTC candidates and chaperone to Camp Perry, Ohio, June 22nd through 26th, 2022, to compete in the Junior Olympics Air Rifle National Championships at no cost to the district. And if any local, state, or federal travel or health warnings are issued, the students will not travel. The board has accepted the donation of 10 bikes and 10 helmets valued at $2,000 from the Spirit of Alaska Federal Credit Union to the 21st Century Community Learning Centers community after-school programs to be used for the 21st Century Elementary Academy Science and Technology Summer Program, the Migrant Education Summer Academy, and for the Alaska Native Education Summer Program students. Sound system speakers valued at $1,600 from Stacy Josie at Pearl Creek Elementary for the use of school events. $2,000 from the EOSC Welfare Fund to North Pole High School to provide $1,000 each to the school's girls and boys soccer program to help with the team's travel and the purchase of uniforms and gear. And accepted the donation of $2,404 from E-Team Sponsor Incorporated to West Valley High School to support the school's 2021-2022 softball season. The board has approved the Personnel Action Report for the period April 8th through the 21st, 2022, and the minutes from April 19th, 2022 special meeting as submitted. The board has acknowledged the Personnel Information Report from the period April 18th through the 21st, 2022, the Budget Transfer Report for period April 1st through the 15th, 2022, the board's reading file, and the coming events and meeting announcements.
Thank you. Next, we will have public comments on reports and non-agenda items. Public comments on reports and non-agenda items, including input, ideas, and suggestions, are welcome and encouraged regarding the school district's fiscal year 2022-2023 school year budget, along with public input on salaries, benefits, and any other contractual items regarding the Education Support Staff Association, the Fairbanks Education Association, and the Fairbanks Principals Association negotiations. Core value: engage with students, families, staff, and community to support student success. Public comments on reports and non-agenda items are limited to 2 minutes per person for a maximum of 1 hour. People who have signed up in advance through the school board office to testify in person or by Zoom will be called upon first, and if time remains, anyone else who is in person will be invited to testify until the 1 hour time limit has been reached. A person testifying shall state their full name, spelling their last name, and their city of residence for the record. Board members may ask questions for clarification. Although there is time at the end of each meeting for school board and superintendent comments, some concerns may not be able to be addressed immediately, as additional information may need to be gathered. We will start off the evening with Kelly Lasse.
Hi, can you hear me?
We can. If you will state your name, spell your last name, give us your area of residence, and you will have 2 minutes to testify.
Thank you. My name is Kelly Lasse, spelled Lasseuey, and I live in Fairbanks. So dear school board, as members of the West Valley High School Parent-Teacher Association, we are concerned about Miss Maylene's communication regarding substitute teacher Ruben Spencer. Maylene's letter to district families on April 11th was sent out 2 weeks after the district was informed by law enforcement of the criminal charges against Spencer. That was not timely notification, and it did not give families time to talk to their children. Her letter notes that Spencer was a substitute teacher only in high school in the past year, excluding Spencer's 2018 to 20 school locations seemed dishonest and may lead families to distrust the administration and question your priorities. This news minor in an April 13th story notes that Spencer was investigated in 2019 when he was 25 following a complaint that he was suspected of having sex with a 16-year-old. No charges were filed in that case because, as the minor reported, the age of consent in Alaska is 16. As a Parent-Teacher Student Association, our student safety is our #1 priority. And as parents, our children are everything to us. That note for Miss Maylene was not reassuring or timely. April is Sexual Assault Awareness Month. Alaska has one of the highest rates per capita of child abuse and neglect. Some of our students are already vulnerable or have already been victims. As leaders of our school, please take every opportunity possible to show empathy and concern for our children. Thank you. Signed, Kelly Lasse, President, Bonnie Owens, VP, and Kate Ripley, Secretary.
Thank you for your testimony. Next, we have
Thank you.
Next, we have Sandy Ryan. State your name, spell your last name, area of residence, and you will have 2 minutes to testify.
Evening all. My name is Sandy Ryan, RYAN. I live in Fairbanks. I'm a 28-year educator in this district, and I currently serve as the FEA president. First and foremost, I would like to wish Happy Teachers Appreciation Day to all the teachers, librarians, counselors, psychologists, and therapists that are either here or listening online or on the radio. This has been a most challenging year. Of the 34 years that I have been a teacher, I recall working through quality school movement, new math, and the Common Core issues. I was a first-year president when the Janus decision threatened to change the landscape of public unions across the nation. To many people's surprise, the decision strengthened teachers' unions and united workforces in many places that had not been before. Please listen to what I'm getting ready to say. In the 34 years I have been a teacher, with 28 of them here, I have never seen educators as disillusioned, disheartened, and flat angry about the total lack of compassion or respect shown during bargaining. Say that you respect teachers, but a total failure to demonstrate it is disheartening, to say the least. We have 2 bargaining dates left during the school year. Please, please direct your team to actually enter into negotiations, not a continued refusal to discuss articles presented or to even consider what our team is saying across the table. Negotiations is a compromise. It is not demanding and stonewalling. Let us return to what we innately know is good for kids, addressing differences head-on and working toward a resolution. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for your testimony. Next, we have Amy Galloway. If you will state your name, spell your last name, area of residence, and you will have 2 minutes to testify.
My name is Amy Galloway, Gallaway, and I live in Fairbanks. So I am a civics teacher at West Valley High School, and I'm just here to give a little context for my students who are going to be emailing you and who are also going to be testifying tonight. So about a month ago, Mrs. Matheson was in my classroom helping with the Veterans History Project. And she remarked how much she wanted to know more about what students were doing and what students were doing after they graduate, so that she could talk in a more informed way about all the great things happening in our schools. And so I came up with the idea. I said, okay, well, I'll have my students testify to you or email. And so I have, as part of an assignment, my students are to either email or testify, sharing their plans for after high school, how school helped them, or maybe how school could have done better for them. And so that's what you're going to see tonight. And I just want to take about 30 seconds and say a deep, heartfelt thank you to Mrs. Tuttle, who in my 18 years in this school district has never, ever once faltered in supporting my students coming here. And I wanted to tell you, Mrs. Tuttle, you have answered every email. And I've had students come to me and show me the email you sent them. You are truly an educator at heart, and I really want to thank you for that. And I guess the last thing I'd like to say is many of the students who are coming before you are We the People students who competed in state as well as just went to Washington, D.C. And I can very truly say with every confidence in my heart that the students in this school district are the best hope for our future, and I am so proud and honored to be their teacher. Enjoy them.
Thank you. On that note, we will start with Ella Williams. State your name, spell your last name, area of residence, and you will have 2 minutes.
Hi, I'm Ella Williams, Williams, and I live in Fairbanks. I'm here today to testify to demonstrate the importance of high school clubs for future success. After I graduate West Valley High School, I'm going to attend Western Washington University in the fall with an interest to major in environmental science and political economics, hoping to advocate for our environment through public policy. I want to dedicate my passion for politics to the Model UN Club at West Valley High School. It is currently the only one in the North Star District. Not only has it taught me public speaking skills, but it's also shown me valued dedication to academic success. We've gone to Washington, D.C. to participate in worldwide conferences, as well as holding our own locally at West Valley. I've gained so much valuable knowledge from participating in this club, and I will forever be thankful to Ms. DeMario as our teacher advisor and my opportunity to participate in West Valley's Model UN Club. Thank you.
Thank you. Catherine Winford, if you'll come up, state your name, spell your last name, give us your area of residence, and you'll have 2 minutes to testify.
Hello, I'm Catherine Winford, Winford, and I live in Fairbanks, and I am here as a student of Ms. Galway. I am testifying tonight to highlight the importance of the Chinese program at West Valley. I'm a senior, and each year of high school I've taken Chinese with Ms. Wong. There's only one period, and I hold the class very close to my heart because over the past 4 years, I've cultivated close relationships with my classmates and teacher while learning the language. This fall, I'm attending the honors program at Pacific Lutheran University, and I will be staying in the Chinese dorm and minoring in Chinese. Ms. Wong's class has provided me with a lifelong livelihood I plan to pursue. The Chinese program should be protected because although small, it is mighty with its uniqueness and long-lasting academic opportunities. I thank each one of you for your time, and I hope you preserve Chinese as well as language as a whole in the school district. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. Next, we have Sam Larson. If you will state your name, spell your last name, give us your area of residence, and you will have 2 minutes to testify.
My name is Sam Larson, Larsen, and I'm a graduating senior of West Valley High School from Fairbanks. I and many other students of Mrs. Galway have come to the board tonight because of a deep passion we have found for civic education, specifically the We the People program at West Valley High School, a program in which students participate in a national constitutional debate competition. I first interacted with the We the People program when I volunteered as a scorer for the state competition. Seeing my peers engage so deeply in government and constitutional debate gave me hope in an incredibly difficult time of my life. I and the other We the People students who have come to testify today have come because we believe it is important that these experiences are shared with the board, not because of any requirement imposed by Mrs. Galloway, but because strong, experience-based civic education is vital to students' liberty and the longevity of our republic, and as such should be treated as an essential part of public education. As stated by Judge Hand in his famous Spirit of Liberty speech, liberty lies in the hearts of men and women. When it dies there, no constitution, no law, no court can save it. Thank you for your time. Thank you, Ms. Galloway, for an absolutely life-changing senior year. And I really am grateful to all of you for your commitment to the Fairbanks North Star Borough School District.
Thank you so much for your testimony. Next, we have Lily Frick. If you will come up, state your name, spell your last name, area of residence, and you will have 2 minutes to testify.
Hello, my name is Lily Frick, F-R-I-C-K. I'm a senior at West Valley High School. I was asked to write about a class or teacher that has helped me to be successful in school or life. I've had many teachers who have taught me things, but I've never had a teacher that taught me how to be an active part in our society or empower me. Ms. Galloway has passion, a love for teaching, and every day in her class you learn something new. We the People is a constitutional debate class. In previous years, there was multiple other schools across the state that would participate. This year, we are the only team in the state to compete. As a class, we decided to compete against ourselves, and Ms. Galloway stood by us the whole time and made a comfortable learning environment for us to excel. For no reason other than to learn about the Constitution, we competed. And thanks to our knowledge from Ms. Galloway's teaching and our independent research, we made it to nationals. In most classes, I wouldn't have completed this task, but Ms. Galloway's enthusiasm about the Constitution made me want to learn. I can now confidently speak out against injustices in our community and use the power of my popular sovereignty to bring about necessary change. Thank you, Ms. Galloway, for actively keeping liberty alive, and thank you for not only being a great teacher, but a great role model. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. Next, we have Isaac Mcgander. If you will state your name, spell your last name, give us your area of residence, and you'll have 2 minutes.
Hello, my name is Isaac Mcgander, M-A-C-A-N-D-E-R, and I live in Fairbanks. During this school year and We the People, I have learned more about our government than I have in the rest of my school experience combined. It is starkly clear in her class how much Ms. Galloway cares about her students and actively prepares them to be successful adults and citizens. On our class trip to DC for nationals, Ms. Galloway put in extra effort to make everyone have the best and most educational time they could. She would halt her own enjoyment of monuments and sightseeing to bring tired individuals back to the hotel and make sure they got the rest they needed for the competition, and put countless time into helping us feel proud of our competition speeches. In the actual competition, you could see her limitless excitement watching her students do their best. And after each person's speech, she would burst up with excitement and high fives, praising their accomplishments and amazing effort. I've never had a teacher who cared so much for the well-being and accomplishment of her students and watched the faces of my fellow students light up with beaming pride at their accomplishment, and this was riveting to see. I think every student should get the chance to feel this sense of accomplishment, and We the People and Ms. Galloway gave this to me. I will always treasure these experiences and opportunities I had in this class, and I know it'll help me in every aspect of life moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your testimony. Next, we have Maggie Wood. If you'll state your name, spell your last name, give us your area of residence, and you'll have 2 minutes.
Hi, my name is Maggie Wood, W-O-O-D, and I live in Fairbanks. I'm testifying tonight to thank my teacher, Ms. Galloway, and the We the People program. At the time I moved to Alaska around 3 years ago, I was terrified of just about everything here. I knew one person in the entire town, and the life that I'd known for 15 years was over 2,000 miles away. At school, I sat in the back of each class, paralyzed with the fear that I might say the wrong thing. Most of my classes passed by this way, except for one. Despite being my most dreaded class by a long shot, AK Studies was a quick favorite. At the beginning of my first semester here, I knew that I didn't want to stay in Alaska for much longer, much less have to take a course devoted to it. But being the amazing teacher that we all know she is, it didn't take Ms. Galloway a long time to turn this around. I'm now a senior and have once again found myself in one of her classes. As you may know, We the People is a class that requires a great deal of public speaking. There's no room to be paralyzed by fear. This year, I participated in both the state and national levels of the program under Ms. Galloway's mentorship. It is largely due to this program and Ms. Galloway that I can look back at my 15-year-old self with the accomplishments and speaking abilities that I now have. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much for your testimony. Next, we have Tilbahan. I apologize if I pronounced. What was that? Okay. Come on up, and if you'll just spell your last name, and you'll give us your area of residence, and you'll have 2 minutes to testify.
Hello, my name is Tillahan Newman, and I live in Fairbanks, Alaska. Tonight, I am sitting here to share you the impact that Ms. Galloway had on me and West Valley. The We the People program, since elementary school, I would say that I have been lucky enough to say that I have had teachers that would support and make me question the world that I live in. I have found that I encounter real life situations all the time. I naturally start thinking critically about how I should deal with any given situation. One example of how this can be seen is when I finally felt, ooh, wait a sec. Got all the time in the world. Okay, one example of this can be seen. All right, I'm just gonna start here. At a young age, I have always had an interesting and unique way of looking at life. I had a constant fear of being judged for knowing too much. In my senior year of high school, I find myself still learning new things and finally having the freedom to speak what's on my mind. Thanks to, in part, of the We the People program, the confidence that I now have with public speaking would not have been possible for me if I had not had the encouragement of my teacher, Ms. Galloway. The practice of We the People and many more. I am proud to say that the teaching that I've gotten from West Valley High School has shaped me into the person you see sitting here today. Thank you for your time and service.
Thank you so much, Tillahan, for your testimony. And thank you, Ms. Galloway, for bringing your students. Thank you thank you. We always appreciate hearing from our students and hearing what you have to say and what you have to share with us. So we really appreciate you coming to the board this evening and sharing your testimony. Next, we have Nicole Larango. If you will state your name, spell your last name, give us your area of residence, and you will have 2 minutes to testify.
Hello, my name is Nicole Larango, spelled Larango. I'm from Fairbanks, Alaska. I'm a current graduate. I'm a graduating West Valley senior. I'm here tonight to talk about a program and a teacher that has positively impacted my senior year and life as a whole. I originally wanted to join We the People as an underclassman when it was just an after-school program. This year, I got the opportunity to participate in We the People as a specialized government class. We were given the ability to engage in activities ranging from in-class congressional hearings, mock legislators, and both the national and state We the People competitions, while all still receiving credit. I would like to thank Ms. Galloway for making all of this possible and giving me and my fellow classmates the opportunity to dive deeper into government and the Constitution. I am proud to say that I'm a We the People alum and hope that the We the People program continues at West Valley High School. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for your testimony. Next, we have Lee Correll. If you'll state your name, spell your last name, give us your area of residence, and you'll have 2 minutes to testify.
Hi, I'm Lee Correll, spelled Coryell. I'm from Fairbanks, Alaska. I'm a senior at West Valley High School and a member of the We the People program, and I plan to study to be a high school level teacher. Last year, I was told by another student to take Miss Galloway's We the People class. At the beginning of this year, I went into class feeling like a non-existent piece in the spectrum of our government. I felt completely disconnected from it and knew little to nothing. Now, after a year, I can confidently say that I have a strong understanding of how our country runs and am passionate about civic duty. I've been greatly inspired by We the People to be a better person and a future educator. Miss Galloway always tells us that we will be the ones to save the Republic, and I thank her for teaching me how. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your testimony. Next, we have Lillian Kenna. If you will come up, state your name, spell your last name, give us your area of residence, and you will have 2 minutes to testify.
Good evening. My name is Lillian Kenna, Kenna, and I am from Fairbanks. I'm testifying tonight to provide feedback on my high school experience at West Valley. This year, I'm a senior, and I have been at West Valley for all 4 years of high school. This fall, I will be attending the University of Hawaii and studying marine biology, working towards a career in research and conservation. The K-12 North Star system has provided me with teachers who inspire me to participate in my community and education, like Miss Galloway, and classes to allow me to explore my interests and guide me in deciding in what I want to do. The majority of teachers at West Valley are clearly dedicated to student success. One thing that I think is worth schools and administration addressing is small town syndrome and ensuring that every student is able to take AP classes and is educated on the core courses they need to take to be prepared for college, not just what they need to graduate from high school. The ups and the downs of high school are experience I will take with me forever, and I'm incredibly thankful for all those who work to ensure that students like myself are successful. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much for your testimony. Next, we have Finn Ludwig. If you will come up, state your name, spell your last name, give us your area of residence, and you'll have 2 minutes to testify.
Hello, my name is Finn Ludwig, spelled Ludwig, and I live in Fairbanks, Alaska. I'm testifying tonight with my fellow We the People peers to spread our love for the program that has shaped our senior year and will continue to affect the course of our lives. With Miss Galloway's support, I have watched my peers, whom I now consider my close friends, become crusaders for constitutional principles and saving our republic, as Miss Galloway would say. The experiences my friends have shared with you tonight are just tidbits and pieces of the whole that is We the People, the class that has brought us together to form these memories. I feel blessed to have been a part of such an amazing community and to have met such wonderful people. We would all like to thank Miss Galloway for her hard work and dedication to civic education, for going above and beyond whenever possible and maintaining the We the People program in Alaska, even when no other school is competing. It is our hope that this program continues to change the lives of students as it has ours and many generations of We the People students before us. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your testimony. Next, we have Nicole Eisman. If you will come up, state your name, spell your last name, give us your area of residence, and you will have 2 minutes to testify.
And I'm not going to talk about Amy, but I would. Nikki Eisman, Fairbanks, Eiseman. I am here tonight advocating for a return of full-time aides for each kindergarten class in our district, should the district receive additional funds from the Assembly or the state legislature. 5 years ago, our district began the transition from half-day kindergarten with a pupil-teacher ratio of 12 to full-time kindergarten with a PTR of 25. When this shift from half-day to full-day was presented to the community, we were told that this new to our district program included 1 teacher and 1 full-time aide for each class of 25-year-olds. Now that aide has been cut by 50%. And what I'm going to read now is from one of our teachers, one of our stellar kindergarten teachers. Kindergartners are expected to be writing and reading by the end of the year. We have many students who enter our doors without any school readiness skills. Imagine teaching a child who enters school never having held a pencil, knows few to no letter names or sounds, to read and write a sentence, while also teaching them to manage their body and emotions. Now imagine doing it while teaching 25 other 5-year-olds at the same time, and no one is there to help you. No one else is there to help the child that needs some one-on-one assistance. No one is there to help the child who's arrived late and is still learning what to do. Every year that I've taught, I have students that still need help writing their names even in the fourth quarter. I have students that can still only sit for a few minutes and are unable to do most tasks without significant support from an adult. I have students that come to school regularly tired and hungry and not ready to learn. They're crying and not able to control their emotions. Kindergartners, oh man, okay, I'm just going to cut to the end. When a second adult is there to help manage the classroom, the teacher is able to help a student learn how to effectively problem solve and manage their emotions, while also learning basic reading, writing, and math skills. We can be proactive instead of reactive. We can thrive instead of just survive. By helping kids early, less help will be needed in later years. And that's really the most salient sentence.
Thank you for your testimony. We appreciate you coming tonight.
I know you've missed me.
Next, we have Nora Hopkins. If you will state your name, spell your last name, give us your area of residence, you will have 2 minutes to testify.
Hello, my name is Nora Hopkins, Hopkins, and I live in the Badger North Pole area. I'm a West Valley senior and West Valley's student body president. I'm testifying tonight to share what I've learned in my 13 years as a student. I attended Barnett Magnet School. Outside of the building that I spent 8 years of the world are the words explore, create, imagine. These words are vital in education. I firmly advocate these principles are the reason I've always valued my education. I never saw my education as limited to memorization. The hands-on approach taught to me through Deborah Bennett, Heidi Imhoff, and Rebecca Kegley, who have exposed me to investigative and thought-provoking learning, as well as Amy Galloway and Heather DeMario, who have taken those basics, elevated them, and taught me they belong as much in the world as in a classroom. I will be attending UAF in the fall on the path of pediatric oncology. Still, those words are in my mind, the strongest tools for learning. They're the words I hope you will think about tonight when you think of education and how much they stand for. Explore, create, imagine. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much for your testimony. Next, we have John Odsather. And I apologize, I know I said the last name wrong. But if you will come up, give us your first name, spell your last name, give us your area of residence, and you will have 2 minutes to testify.
My name's Jan Odsather, Odsather. I live in Fairbanks. I graduated at Lathrop and Hutch in '89. My wife graduated from here. All my kids have gone to school here. Just recently, there was a memo that was issued by Risk Management that effectively wiped the legs out from underneath the vocational education system in Fairbanks. I think you guys should really strongly look at it and see what you can do to potentially stay his memo and look into the other alternatives. Most specifically, signing of a risk subrogation waiver to make it so that the kids can actually bring their own vehicles in, bring their own steel in for welding, everything that we've done for the last 40 years. And why this has become a big deal within the last week or the last 2 weeks, I don't understand, because the school district has had 40 years of precedence to allow this system. I mean, it's the reason I stayed in school. Without the ability to learn the way we learned with teachers like Jim Baird, who's back here with me today, I wouldn't have stayed in school. It would have been just that simple, because I don't learn the way the system sets everybody else up to learn. It's a travesty that the menu was written, or that the memo was written, and I think we need to really strongly look at changing it. And I'd be happy to work on a work committee or do whatever to make it right. because it's bad for the school district, it's bad for the state, it's bad for the community, and it really goes against, I mean, I was just looking at your core values when I was sitting back there in the back row. And this memo really goes against 4 of the 6 core values that you profess to want to put out in the community. So anyway, I'd like to talk more on this later, but 2 minutes isn't enough time for anything.
Mr. Sampson?
Thank you, Mr. Atzather. You mentioned 40 years. Can you clarify where that number came from?
Yeah, Hutchison Career Center was opened up long before I started in the school district. And like I said, I graduated in '89 and the school was old when I was there. I don't know what the day was that it opened, but it was a long time ago.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for your testimony this evening.
Sure.
Next, we have Willard Vinton. If you will come up, state your name, spell your last name, give us your area of residence, and you will have 2 minutes to testify.
Willard Vinton, Vinton, and live in Fairbanks. And I kind of feel like John just said, but I'd like to go back a little further than that. It's been well over 60 years since I got out of high school, and I graduated from high school in Montana. We had vocational program there, and they pushed it very hard. I run the Antique Auto Museum here. I was in business for years here in Fairbanks. I had the Peterbilt dealership, and I hired people here. I had students that came out of Hutch that worked for me. I think what's happening with shutting that down basically is really a travesty. John mentioned 40 years. When I look at it, it's 60 years at least. And I understand risk. Having been in business for myself most of my life, I totally understand what risk is. I don't know what they figure the risk is, the difference between a student bringing a small engine into class to rebuild versus if the school owns that small engine to rebuild. There is no difference in risk there. I mean, if you have to have a release sign from the student saying, you know, to my knowledge, it's not going to blow up, but we don't know what's going to happen. I taught at Hutch in a diesel program for a year when I first retired, and the engines and stuff that they had there were just garbage because they belonged to the university, and people came in each class, tore them apart, put them back together, and expected to make them run. And so half the engines that we built over there wouldn't run. So I donated several engines to kind of help with that program. But in the high school setting, it's a little bit different. But I really would like to encourage you guys to put a lot of thought into this and kind of help us understand what risk is. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. Next, we have James Baird. If you will come up, state your name, spell your last name, give us your area of residence, and you will have 2 minutes to testify.
My name is James Baird, B-A-I-R-D. Live in Fairbanks. I started as a vocational instructor at Hutchison Career Center in August of 1976. I taught there through June of '88. I went back in January of '96 and taught through the end of the 2001 school year in June. I look at automotive education a lot like a physician's education. You start out with bookwork, you get the theory down, and then you work on a cadaver. And I'll tell you, we had some cadavers. We had cadavers for brakes, we had cadavers for suspensions and alignment, we had cadavers for a variety of things. The disadvantage of a cadaver is you can only take it apart a couple times, and then it sort of takes itself apart and back together. So they move on to, in the medical field, on to live patients, doing rounds with a doctor that explains what he's going to do. And I sort of did the same thing. We had student cars come in after we had covered that material with the cadavers. And we did things like brake inspections and say, this is how it works. You've got problems. These are the parts you need. They get the parts, bring them in. We worked on faculty cars. And there's ownership then. As far as when Hutchison started, when Hutchison opened, I was I team taught with another guy the second year that it was open. So it opened in '74. Before they were building West Valley when I started.
Thank you so much for your testimony. Next, we have Wendy Demers. If you will state your name, spell your last name, give us your area of residence, and you'll have 2 minutes to testify.
Hello, my name is Wendy Demers. I'm from Fairbanks, Demers. I am speaking tonight on behalf of the Music Education Advocacy Committee. We wanted this board and admin to know that when testifying recently at Borough Assembly meetings, we've tried our best to explain that the loss of essential programs such as elementary band and orchestra are what happens when schools are chronically underfunded, as ours has been. And we therefore asked them to fully fund the district's $51 million ask. I want to describe the we I mentioned above. Over the past months, speaking both here and to the Borough Assembly, there's been parents and teachers, current students, alumni, still here in Fairbanks, and those that have moved on to music careers in New York City and even England. They've been young members of the Fairbanks Youth Orchestra as well as Youth Orchestra board members. There's been university professors and many members of the Fairbanks Symphony Orchestra, including its maestro, who's spoken here to you, as well as to the borough. Even a UF benefactor, who is also a North Pole High School and UAF grad, has called in to recent board assembly meetings to testify on behalf of Fairbanks Music Education. I say all this to point out that as a consequence of your recent cuts, this district has gained itself the focused attention of a wide swath of the Fairbanks music community, and that attention is not going away. Elementary band and orchestra programs may be gone for the moment, but they will not remain so because we are not going anywhere. And we are going to figure out how the district can rebuild them. Not very long ago, it was said that there's not a major music school in the country that's not aware of Fairbanks music students. Such was our reputation for excellence. It was something to be so proud of. Sadly, though, that reputation is at risk of slipping because excellence requires investment, and that recently has been glaringly absent. There are places, though, that make those investments well. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your testimony. Next, we have Erin Jenoso. If you will come up, state your name, spell your last name, give us your area of residence, and you will have 2 minutes to testify.
Hello, my name is Erin Jenoso. I'm from Fairbanks. And I wanted to speak to you tonight to say that a lot has been said over the past number of months about elementary band and orchestra programs, but it's also true that the 6th through 12th grade programs matter just as much. Throughout this year's budget discussions, it's been made clear that this is where admin wants to focus our music resources. And in response, some of our district music educators came up with a plan that has tremendous potential, but potential requires support. For this plan to succeed, the following are some of the things that must be taken into consideration and acted upon. These programs must be fully staffed. There's a local and national teacher shortage, and what is the district doing to retain its current music teachers, and what active recruitment efforts are underway? The first months of a beginner student's playing experiences are crucial. There must be intentional quality support offered. What are your plans to accomplish this? It cannot be overlooked. Next, if we want this 6 through 12 model program to work, it cannot be subject to cuts because of enrollment numbers. It must be allowed time to build. This is not something that will happen overnight. For music students to remain known for their excellence, they must be allowed to grow without penalty. Content-specific teachers are essential to the success of this proposal. Band teachers must teach band, orchestra teach orchestra, choir teachers teaching choir. These teachers, as well as the middle school teachers, cannot be pulled by principals to fill staffing holes elsewhere. And finally, these new district-wide music positions will require effective and responsive management by district admin, which likely means a district-wide admin position for that purpose. There are reasonable and creative ideas to make this possible despite even this current budget situation. For this plan to succeed, its management cannot be relegated to the bottom of somebody's already overstuffed to-do list because it will fail if that's how it's handled. A couple closing thoughts. The potential of this plan is exciting, and also the talented, committed music community you've heard from is not going away. We will be listening and watching these things and know how they are being handled. So please, let's work together and do this well. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. Next, we have Ms. Wendy Dominique. If you'll come up, state your name, spell your last name, give us your area of residence, and you will have two minutes to testify.
My legs keep wanting to give out on me, but I'm going to make it through. Wendy Dominique, last name Dominique. I came here to testify about two things tonight, but all the testimony that has been given, I have to make a statement about it. Miss Amy Galloway, she is one wonderful lady. I have worked with her tremendously, and we talk often. And I just want to say to you guys, you see the outpour that she got. Well, she didn't make these kids come here and say that. They love her enough to say what they said tonight for her. We have to give your team the authority to make sure we keep these teachers in place. We have to do that budget. We have to increase their pay. We're in a teacher shortage just like the rest of the nation is. And we have to do what's right by our teachers. We don't have enough subs. We don't have enough teachers, period. Please work with Ms. Ryan and her staff, and you all give them the funding that they need, because they truly need that funding. The other thing I wanted to say before my time runs out, Sharon Tuttle, I really didn't want to bring you up first, Sharon. I can't look at you when I'm talking. She was such a great influence for me. I was on this board for 17 years, and believe me, let me get my tissue. I wouldn't have been able to do my last 3 years I did with this board if it wasn't for her. She is a phenomenal person. This district, y'all gonna be lost without her. She was always there, not only for me, not only for the board. I've had people call me and tell me, well, I don't wanna call downtown. I tell them, call. Sharon is the nicest person you will ever come across. And she made them feel that way. I didn't have to tell her that. She is such a wonderful person. I'm so sorry to see her leave. But the last thing I have to say, you guys, is the Alaska Science Reading Symposium. I just want to let you all know the #1 school, the #1 state in the nation is Mississippi. Think about that. If we can have Mississippi jump up, because I've looked at the NAEP scores, and Mississippi has always been down in the bottom. If they can make it to #1, we can do it with no problem whatsoever. But we got to pay our teachers. Thank you for everything, Ms. Sharon, and thank you guys for serving.
Thank you for your testimony. Next, we have Danielle Logan. If you will state your name, spell your last name, give us your area of residence, and you will have 2 minutes to testify.
I'll talk fast. No. My name is Danielle Logan, Logan, and I reside in Fairbanks. I would like to thank every teacher in this district for the hard work that they do. They are educating the future and deserve so much more than our thanks. I hope the board will follow this advice of Sandy Ryan in order to give more than mere lip service to the teacher appreciation comments. Of course, ESSA is also in bargaining, and last night ESSA held a town hall focusing around bargaining. We had a large turnout. Members repeatedly said, I love working with our students, but I don't know how much longer I can do this. The thing we heard most about, however, wasn't specifically bargaining. It was the 5 days you cut from the budget for ESSA staff. The 5 days that will be sprinkled throughout the year, making it impossible to make up through another job. While I don't have the exact numbers, it is my understanding that these cuts will save the district between $250,000 and $450,000. I would like to point out that is a fraction of the school district budget. However, this is a huge cut to the members' household budget, a cut many of them simply cannot live with. Our members are worn out. The last 2.5 years, the last 2.5 years have not been the easiest. You have asked us time and time to do more with less. Time and time again, our staff have risen to the challenge and have done what is asked of them. They don't feel appreciated and the morale is low. Reinstating those 5 days is something you can and should do. You have already laid off 47 ESSA employees for next year, despite having 30 openings showing today online. In this economy, these members are likely not to come back. As they find new jobs, we will lose more employees if these cuts stay in place. There have been openings all year. It used to be that we would have multiple candidates for every job, but now we have jobs going unfilled all school year long. Why would you think cutting their pay by 5 days will make it any easier to fill these jobs? Let alone retain them if we do get people. Our students and our community deserve better leadership from this board.
Mr. Sampson?
Thank you. You mentioned the 5 days a lot. Can you elaborate on a little more about the 5 days? Clarify what
The 5 days you cut from the budget before it went to the board, before it went to the assembly. Those 5 days will not be made. They'll be sprinkled throughout the school year.
Would you clarify the 5 days?
I can't clarify those because I don't have that complete information yet. It will be a parent-teacher conference, spring break, wherever.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Next, we have Julie Smith.
Hello, can you hear me?
We can. If you will just state your name, spell your last name, give us your area of residence, and you will have 2 minutes to testify.
Okay, my name is Julie Smith, SMYTH, and I live in the city of Fairbanks. I am here today to remind each of you that our country is founded on the freedom of religion, including religions that are supportive of a healthy sex life. I am supportive of having access to all sorts of books, including religious ones, in our school libraries, so everyone can easily do research. And to remind people that if we're going to remove books from schools for explicit and immoral content, the Bible does fit under that category. I have found 55 incidents that include sex, killing children / forced abortions, rape, and suicide. And I know that's not all of the passages that pertain to these topics in the Bible. Passages I would like to highlight include Genesis 19, where angels visit Lot and the people of the city want to rape the angels. So Lot offers his daughters in their place. And when they leave the city, Lot's daughters rape him to get pregnant. Isaiah 13, 9 through 16 talks about killing children and raping wives. 2 Samuel 13, 11 through 14 is a passage where a brother rapes his sister. 2 Samuel 6:20 is a passage where David is praised for walking around naked without shame. Ezekiel 16:17 is a passage where someone takes their jewelry and makes a dildo / sex doll. 2 Samuel 17:23 is a passage where someone hangs himself. 1 Kings 16:18 is a passage where Zimri commits suicide. And the Song of Solomon has all sorts of passages where they're comparing women's breasts to different things and talking about how women are getting favors because of the way their body looks, or women are getting excited because their husbands are getting drunk and they know this means they'll have sex all night. There are all sorts of passages in the Bible where God permits people to go and kill entire cities, including the children, because Israel wants more land or they have done something to upset God. There are passages where they have killed everybody except for the children and except for the female children, so that way the female children can be sold into slavery.
That is time, Ms. Smith.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have John Heron DeLong. If you'll come up, state your name, spell your last name, and you will have 2 minutes to testify.
He's online.
Oh, I apologize. If you'll state your name, spell your last name, and give us your area of residence, you will have 2 minutes to testify.
Can you hear me?
We can.
My name is John Huron DeLong. I live in Fairbanks, and I'm a graduating senior at West Valley High School. And I'm here to talk with Ms. Galloway's class. One thing that has been the anchor of my entire high school career has been orchestra class. Since 4th grade, it has helped me stay focused and motivated. Orchestra and band programs have allowed me and countless other students to keep playing instruments by cultivating a group of peers to play with. Orchestra and band programs are essential to the health of our community. It gives kids an outlet that keeps the brain active and develops useful skills such as cooperation, coordination, and hard work. There is also a pipeline of students that learn how to play an instrument through the school district and go on to study music at UAF and in very prestigious music schools. Recently, the school board has cut funding to elementary band and orchestra programs. Band and orchestra programs without the district are like an ecosystem. By removing funding at the most basic level, everything at a higher level is threatened. Cutting music funding is a mistake. Please reinstate funding for elementary band and orchestra for the 2022-2023 budget. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. That concludes all of those who have signed up. Is there anyone in the audience who would still like to testify? We have another 10 minutes of testimony left. If you'll state your name, spell your last name, give us your area of residence, you'll have 2 minutes to testify.
Thank you. My name is Dylan Congdon, Congdon. I'm a resident of Fairbanks, and it is with oil-stained jeans and scarred hands that I come to testify to you today as a Hutchinson Automotive student. A couple of weeks ago, a resolution was passed stating that no new student projects could be brought in for the automotive, small engines, or welding program. The reason cited was due to risk assessment and risk management, and it is with deep regret that I have to talk to you today about that. I think that is short-sighted, as especially in the midst of a labor shortage, we should not be cutting back any incentive for a student to join a trades program. I also speak this from experience, as I have been an automotive student for every year here at Hutch, and on top of that, if this ban stays in place, I will be the last student to work on a personal vehicle at Hutchinson High School. I recently brought in my truck, which needed a transmission swap in addition to a front-end rebuild. These are not things that students can do at their house without any prior knowledge. I had no knowledge on swapping a transmission, and that is not something that can simply be looked up. The school did not have funding to fix this, of course, as this is not theirs, nor did the school have the facility to do any kind of program or project of this on their own. I supplied all the parts needed, and the entire class and I worked to fix it. When it was done, the teacher did a top-down inspection of the entire vehicle, and it is, well, with pleasure that I say that it now runs and drives flawlessly. This is not special of the program whatsoever, as this was the kind of thing that happened every day. Students were able to, in a safe environment, learn how to effectively work on materials, including vehicles as well as steel in the shop program. Because of this, I ask that you guys would do whatever you can possible to try and reassess this risk management, as it is my belief that being able to work on projects in a school environment under the supervision of an instructor is a far less risk than just trying to figure it out on your own. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your testimony. Are there any others that would like to testify this evening? If you will state your name, spell your last name, give us your area of residence, and you will have 2 minutes to testify.
Hello, my name is Russell Miller, and much like Dylan, I also come with dirty hands and stained clothes. I just got off work, but I was a 2019 graduate of Hutchinson High School, and I took every small engine, automotive, auto body, welding class that I could, as well as completed all my core classes. My senior year, I was taking 2 periods of advanced auto as well as 1 period of auto body. In both of those different classes, I was able to repaint my 1977 Ford truck as well as fix up the engine and redo some of the drivetrain so that it was car show ready by the time I graduate high school. And since graduating, I have continue to use the skills that I learned in that class every day at work. And then after I clock out of work, I continue to work on my own projects and my family members' vehicles and my friends' vehicles, all after hours on my own time, on my own dime. All thanks to the skills that I learned while a student at Hutchinson High School, thanks to working on my own projects in the classes. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for your testimony. Are there any others that would like to testify? Seeing none, public testimony is now over. We do not have a Borough Assembly report this evening. And my president's report, I wanted to just focus on the retirements of our district employees and be able to move on to the business of the board this evening, because I know that we have a very large list of items that we need to complete and go through this evening. So I would like to turn the time to our Ms. Anderson.
Yes, excuse me. Before the West Valley young people, we the people walk out, would you guys hold it for just a second? I would like to thank you for coming and sharing your testimony, and I've been reading your emails. And as a person who ran for elected office, you've held 7 public forums. Of all the public forums that I've had to attend, your public forum is the one that gives me grief, because I know I'm going to be standing or sitting before the future. That's how I look at you. I appreciate all that you guys have applied yourselves to. I'm very proud of the achievements that you have obtained for yourself, for your school, your family, and for this district. And I commend you for the work, and I'm pretty sure we'll be hearing from some of you in public office as time goes on to replace some of us. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Sanderson. Next, we will have the Chief School Administrator report, including updates on school closures, transitions, transportation, and the budget. Goals and objectives are to ensure students, staff, families, and the community are informed, connected, and engaged with the district. Chief School Administrator Ms. Moline will provide her report, including updates on school closure, transitions, transportation, and the budget. Mrs. Moline.
Thank you. I'd like to begin my report by expressing my appreciation to the teachers here in the Fairbanks North Starborough School District. It's during this week that the entire nation pauses to express appreciation to those who I appreciate all throughout the year. Your work is big, hard, and important. You impact the now and the future by what you do. Thank you. In the area of transportation, we're working with Durham in what the start of next year's school will look like. At this point, we're expecting to start next year with similar routes as we did this year. They will be coming before the board on June 7th for a full report. In the area of budget, the district presented the budget to the Borough Assembly on April 21st, and they continue to work through their budget process. We're watching closely in current legislation and budget processes at the state level, as well as the legislative processes happening now with significant implications for the budget for our district. We are preparing for the real possibility of an increase in the funding through the state. We've identified our priorities, and we're in the process of attaching figures. And just as a note, in our priorities, kindergarten teaching assistants is #1 priority on our list. And so we will be attaching figures to those priorities so we can adjust our budget as needed should the state provide extra funding. I would like to just take a minute to clarify a couple of things and give an opportunity to talk about a couple of topics. First is that of the collapsing of the EMT and fire protection program at West Valley. This became necessary because of the continued dwindling interest and enrollment in the program. Historically in the district, this has happened on several occasions as the interest in the program dwindled and enrollment decreased. It just became necessary from a realistic fiscal perspective to collapse those programs. The good news in current day opportunities as opposed to the past is that if students are interested in pursuing a career in that pathway, those classes are available to them through our partnership with the UAF Community College. And so they can take those courses and receive the same training and certifications that they would have through our program. So while we can't provide it because of our fiscal situation, students still have those options available to them. The second item I'd like to offer some clarification for is that of what we heard testimony tonight, and that's around the auto shop program at Hutchinson. First of all, I want to make it perfectly clear that there are no programs going away. The programs will remain, the educational opportunities will remain, and the district is in this for the long game. So it is the borough expectation that personal vehicles not be in the shop classes from a risk perspective. So we are in the process as a district pursuing an ASE certification, which would allow for some leniency in the area of having personal vehicles. And we're reaching out to different programs that have gone through this certification process to help shepherd us through that. We've been in communication with the borough, and they are in fully support of the district pursuing this, the appropriate certifications, so we can see our auto shop programs operate with the correct certifications and reduce the risk to the borough. So we also have our advisory committee made up of companies here in town that have auto shop opportunities, and they're working with us. So while we need to come into compliance with expectation of risk for the borough, we are seeking our ASE certifications in those programs so we can build a better, longer lasting certified program and preparing our students even better for the workforce with certifications that they might need. And so next I would just like to address the topic of the school closure processes. And to do that, I want to bring to the attention of the board and the community what's happening at Crawford and Anderson in their transition processes. Through the efforts of one of our educators, Catalina Calkins, the ELL tutor at Crawford, they've been working with students and staff in the transition, and they have created a Crawford Caribou newspaper in which 2 students have written excellent articles about the transition where they interviewed staff, indicating that staff was sad but excited. Very well written, and it is an illustration of how the staff and students are working through this process of transition and are being supported by the school community. So thank you to Ms. Calkins for leading that effort and shepherding students and families and staff through that transition. Finally, I would like to just speak briefly about something that Ms. Dominique mentioned earlier, and that was the Alaska Science of Reading Symposium that happened over the weekend. Fairbanks North Starborough School District took 80 educators to this event, and I believe, first of all, this speaks to the level of educators that we have in our district who are willing to spend their time to hone their craft and become those lifelong learners that they long for their students to be. And secondly, I'd like to acknowledge the excitement and energy that they were bringing back to support the students. The excitement was palatable in the airport as we talked about the different things that we heard over the course of the 2-day conference. Our mission states that we will provide an equitable education in a safe and supportive environment. The great equalizer for all students in an equitable environment is the ability to read well. So for the fundamental success of our education in a supportive environment for all students is that we teach them to read. We are ready to begin that process aggressively to work and see all of our Fairbanks North Starborough School District students become readers. Thank you.
Ms. Marati?
Thank you for your report, Ms. Moline. The testimony that we heard tonight about the auto shop and the personal vehicles, they mentioned a risk subrogation waiver. I'm wondering if our district looked into that.
The risk expectation is the borough risk, and so we've worked with the borough risk management in what's best moving forward, and I don't believe that's been pursued at this point.
Is there a reason why a waiver hasn't been pursued?
That would be on the part of the borough to pursue that if that was something they wanted to do.
As our chief school administrator, would you be willing to speak to the borough risk management to pursue a waiver?
We've been in communication with the borough risk management and have talked through our steps forward in getting our ASE certification so we can actually have the appropriate certification to mitigate the risk. So the borough's on board with us getting, they're very supportive of us getting that. And once we get that certification, then we can move forward with what we're hoping to do.
May I follow up? That doesn't answer my question. Are you willing to speak with the borough risk management department about a waiver for the district for this purpose?
I'm certainly willing to do that. We've had many conversations, but I'll do that.
Thank you.
I had a question, and then Ms. Sanderson. The certification that we are looking into, about how long would it take for us to get that certification? And with that certification, will we be allowed to have those personal vehicles go back in the shop again?
So as I mentioned in my report, we are working with different folks that have gone through this certification process to help expedite it. What we're hoping to have done is by the end of next year, we'll have our certification. Will that allow us to do anything we want to in shop? No. The parameters of that, I'm not sure if we're ready to speak to that yet, but as we go through this process, we can bring updates.
Thank you. Ms. Sanderson?
Yes, Ms. Moline, thank you. So when this ASC certification comes along, we're going to apply it to both of the programs, the one at Hutchinson, and then because we mirrored North Pole's. Okay.
Yeah, each program will have their own certification.
Thank you.
Ms. Marati?
Thank you. Also, it was mentioned that it's unclear what the difference is between the risk of students bringing in their engines, for example, versus the district providing an engine. Can you explain the difference?
The difference in the risk? I don't feel comfortable doing that, but we can certainly have borough risk come in and talk deeper to that if that's something that the board would like.
If maybe we could get more of the clarification of what the risks were, just in an email. I'm getting a thumbs up from administration.
I have further questions, but if other people do, they can go too.
Any other questions from? Go ahead, Ms. Marati.
It was mentioned in testimony tonight that longtime educators have never seen educators so disillusioned and disrespected through negotiations. What are we doing to remedy that situation?
I don't have any like concrete examples of how that has happened, that at the negotiating table there's been disrespect. So I would need to know more about that before I could know the steps to take.
I believe it was the bargaining unit presidents that both said it. Do you meet with them?
Do I meet with the? Yes, I do.
Are you willing to speak with them on that specific topic and then bring back to the board what you've done to remedy the situation?
Yes. Yes.
Thank you.
Mr. Rhodes.
I changed my mind.
Okay. Any further questions from the board? Ms. Marotti?
This might be a question for Ms. LaPlante, but through Ms. Milleen, in public testimony tonight, and we've heard it for the last few months, it's actually tonight was one of the first times I've heard a lot of support for the 612 shift in music funding investment for the orchestra and band. But there were questions that were asked and that we've been asked repeatedly, and I haven't quite heard an answer, specifically around the teacher shortage. So that affects everywhere, but because this program is going to be so fragilely impacted by a teacher shortage, the question was what active recruitment is underway. So maybe we could be enlightened on what that looks like right now.
So I don't know if that's a.
I was going to say, can I phone a friend?
Yeah, I was going to say, I think that's probably more of a human resources question as far as teacher recruitment goes.
Specifically for the 612 band orchestra positions.
Yeah.
Right. So right now, our recruitment efforts we're just now getting to posting internally our teaching positions, which also include our music positions. And then as we start to have those positions go external, we look at our different recruitment methods, such as teacher job fairs, which we attended one in Anchorage, and we're also attending one in Salt Lake City coming up in a couple of weeks, and we're also changing our recruitment practices of what we can do at the job fairs. We have our district recruiter who is focusing on a variety of positions, to which music is one of them as well. So we are starting now to look at recruitments and what our specific needs are now that the internal movement's happened within the teacher ranks, if that makes sense, about the internal movement having to happen first.
Yeah, it does. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. Ms. Marotti?
Sorry, one more. In regards to the busing, you mentioned that that we're going to start next year with the same issues that we have right now, the same routes. I'm confused because if staffing is the issue, shouldn't months of time between now and then provide enough time to correct the staffing issue? Maybe you can explain. I know that we will hear from them on the 7th, but in the meantime, can you explain that?
So just for clarification, I said we would start next year where we started this year, not where we're ending this year, but where we started last year. And so while they'll continue to actively recruit, to say that we're going to have all the routes is not an expectation that they're offering right now. So we will have to talk with them about negotiating their agreement and finding out how our contract is going to be different moving into next year.
May I follow up? Thank you for the clarification about the beginning of next year looking like the beginning of this year. Can you remind me what the beginning of this year looked like?
Yeah, we started with all routes running at the beginning of the year. Where we ran into difficulty was as we got into if you remember, we got into the year, probably the first quarter of the year, and those drivers that they had brought up from south went back And that's when we ran into it. They were hoping to have recruited for those positions by the time the like fill-in drivers left, and that didn't happen. So that's where we started last year. What we've been very clear on is that we are not interested in this rolling schedule thing that we've been working on. So whatever kind of a schedule we have to build that does not include this rolling schedule is the kind of schedule that we'll build.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you. Oh, thank you so much, Ms. Moline. Next, we will go into our action items, new business. First on that part of the agenda is the approval of the 2022-2023 Effie Cochrane Charter School contract. Core value, maintain high expectation and educational opportunities to inspire high achievement. Included in the agenda is the proposed fiscal year 2022-2023 contract for Effie Cochrane Charter School. There are no changes to the contract from last year. Also provided is the Charter School's 2021-2022 annual report. Representatives from the Charter School will present an overview of their annual report. The administration recommends the Charter School contract presented for next year be approved. Can I get a motion?
Move to approve the 2022-2023 charter school contract between the Fairbanks North Starborough School District and Effie Cochrane Charter School.
Second.
Ready for me?
We have a motion on the floor.
Okay.
So
Before I forget, I'm going to just say my thank you to Sharon Tuttle also, who I did my share of late submissions to her, and she'd always give me till the very last moment. So Sharon, I will miss you. So just a little snapshot for those of you, a refresher, we're at year 17 as a charter school in the district. And I think we're unique in that we're the only high school charter school. We're actually 7 through 12, and that our charter was originally drafted and submitted in partnership with the Fairbanks Native Association. So the community that we represent is functionally the Fairbanks Native community, and I think that's really important to recognize. I was thinking back to the last time that I presented, and we were forced to streamline operations pretty significantly when COVID hit. We had some staff reductions, we had an enrollment drop. But I can say kind of in hindsight now that as this has often happened in my life, when you are forced to stretch yourself and change and meet new challenges, you get new insight and you learn new things. And so previously we had, our goal was a higher level of enrollment. We've kind of found this after being in Hold Harmless. We found this nice happy medium. So we've sat at 145 pretty consistently all year with waiting lists. And the reason we have waiting lists is because we had to reduce staff. So that was to keep the classroom sizes down. And so I anticipate us moving forward with that target enrollment. There was some discussion about adding 6th grade with the closures that were existing around the school district, and I don't think that that would serve the rest of the school at this point in time. We actually had a number of families reach out to us about that. Not saying it would never happen, but I don't think it's the right time right now. So enrollment staying stable, and I think just a really relentless focus on improving student work and their achievement, and that's a tough task under the conditions we've been under, and I feel like we've got a very, very dedicated staff and community behind us. And in closing, I think the other thing that I thought a lot about when I was putting the report together was 17 years in, we truly have really, really important partnerships through the community and those really became clear to me this year. We're working very closely with Tanana Chiefs Conference. They have a college readiness program called TCC Go, and we partnered with them this year and the School of Management at UAF, and the plan is to go full steam ahead next year and add a grade to that cohort. We partnered with Doyon Foundation, and I'm sure everyone here is aware of how endangered certain Alaska Native languages are, and Doyon Foundation has really invested a lot of energy into some online learning modules. And this year we worked very closely with them, basically piloting the use of those language learning modules in our classes, and plan to move forward with that next year. And then finally, as I've mentioned in the past, we work very closely with Fairbanks Native Association in terms of behavioral health, and we refer families, students, adults to their mental health services, and I see that as a really key partnership. But I think that speaks to the health of the school and of its links to the different elements of the Alaska Native community in Fairbanks. And so in closing, I just want to say that the folks over there for the district, I just want to give them a big thank you, starting with Lori Beam, who's my direct boss. Ivory, who, when she really wants to get something done, leaves a message on my phone, but deals with all of our hiring needs. We had Chain over to do a phenomenal professional development session with teachers. We're going to do it again next August. Luke, give him a call quite frequently, and Luke, really appreciate you getting Val over there to help us out with the SMART program. And finally, Andy and Sandy Weaver, who's just always there to answer questions. So big thank you to all the district folks who support us.
Thank you. Is there anything that administration would like to add?
Nope, we have nothing to add at this point.
Questions or comments from the board?
I'm going to just add one more thing. Transportation was tough this year. I wrote that down. And I would, somebody in the audience was asking me, I would say probably 80% of our students rely on the bus transportation to school. And I would also say it gives people pause, but there's a significant percentage of our families who there is no car in the family at all. So we have been really stretching to just address that very basic thing to get kids to school. And you know, actually that's the other thank you I gotta give is to the folks in the transportation office who have had to deal with all kinds of the things this year, and Ryan Hinton and those folks have just been super supportive in trying to work with what they have. But I would say you can't work on student achievement if you can't get the kids reliably to school. And I'm sure other administrators were faced with this as well, this was an ongoing challenge. So I know you all are thinking about it and dealing with it, but there's testimony from the ground level. So thank you.
Questions from, before we go to questions from the board, do we have any public testimony? Seeing none, public testimony is closed on this topic. Questions or comments from the board? Ms. Sanderson?
Yes, can you talk to me about the credit recovery? How many students were able to be involved in that?
So I put that in the report. You know, I think I mentioned this last year that when we came out of, yeah, so you saw it. So this year, so we actually have graduation this Friday. So that is my entire focus right now. We're just starting to put together the credit recovery program, and I anticipate probably in the range of 50 to 60 students participating in that.
And one final question, if I might. Are you guys still in partnership with Ella Salvik, or is the career exploration classes
It's kind of taken the place of that. Yeah, yeah.
Thank you.
Further questions or comments from the board? Ms. Marati?
Is this the new version of the contract that I heard went out to the charter schools?
No.
No.
We had, we'd introduced a new contract to the charter schools, but they felt like they needed more time to go over it with their APCs and make sure that it was something they had time for their APC to look at. We looked at it. So that'll be the work of next year. Some of our charter schools will be working on that with their APCs.
Is that for all charter schools or just Effie Cochrane?
No, that's all. No.
Oh, okay, great, thank you.
Seeing no further questions or comments from the board, Mrs. Tuttle.
Mr. Rhodes?
Yes.
Thank you. Colonel Williamson?
Yes.
Thank you. Mrs. Smith?
Yes.
Thank you. Mr. Sampson?
Yes.
Thank you. Mrs. Sanderson?
Yes.
Thank you. Ms. Marati?
Yes.
Thank you. Mrs. Luke?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carried.
Thank you so much, and I look forward to seeing you at graduation. Perfect. Next on our agenda is the approval of the 2022-2023 Chinook Montessori Charter School contract. Core value, maintain high expectations and educational opportunities to inspire high achievement. Included in the agenda is the proposed fiscal year 2022-2023 contract for Chinook Montessori Charter School. There are no changes to the contract from last year. Also provided is the Charter School's 2021-2022 annual report. Representatives from the Charter School will present an overview of their annual report. The administration recommends the Charter School contract presented for next year be approved. Can I get a motion?
Move to approve the 2022-23 charter school contract between the Fairbanks North Star Borough School District and Chinook Montessori Charter School.
Second.
Perfect. Thank you so much. We'd like to turn the time over to Chinook.
It's been a good year having students back in the building, teaching with hands-on material and utilizing the Montessori method. Many community members have spent time inside our classrooms, sharing their specialties with our students. Our students also spent many hours outside of the classroom on field trips and go-out groups. Families have recorded over 2,500 hours of volunteer time this year. We're very fortunate and appreciative to having such supportive families. Our enrollment is stable, with 100% of our K-7 students planning to return next year. And next year, we are welcoming 18 new to Chinook families with our open spots in kindergarten and 7th grade. Our Chinook APC sent out a parent satisfaction survey, which indicated that the parent community believes that we are doing an excellent or satisfactory job incorporating our foundational aspects. According to reading, math, and AIMSweb results, most of our students have showed growth in reading and math. Teaching language arts is an area we are focusing on as a school. We've purchased new materials for our primary students, and our teachers have participated in professional development to strengthen our understanding of teaching reading to our students. We are excited to host our big graduation in person on May 17th at 5:30 for our 8th grade students. The entire school has worked hard to prepare for this event, making quilts and poems, and we're excited to celebrate with our graduates and our entire Chinook community, including parents and younger students.
Is there anything that administration would like to add?
Nothing at this time.
Okay. And before we turn time over to the board, is there anyone in the room that would like to provide public testimony? Seeing none, public testimony is closed on this agenda item. I'd like to move to the board. Any questions or comments? Ms. Marati.
On page 5, it says Oh, number of applications was 35 for kindergarten. Do you have a process when someone is not accepted into the lottery?
We don't have an appeal process. What is in our charter states that we have to have applications by April 10th because the lottery runs on April 15th.
Thank you.
Any questions or comments? Mr. Sampson?
Thank you. I see in your agenda dated January of '22, the minutes. There was a vote that was 7-0 that addressed complying with school district, the school board's directive in regards to masks being optional. Is there any question in your mind as to the authority of such directives? It seems to be brought into question by looking at the minutes as almost as if it took approval by the APC in order to fall in line with the district's directive.
Well, prior to January, we had come before the board to put masking in our contract.
Maybe you can help me with my recollection. Was that granted? Did the board agree to that? I don't recall that. Prior to January, you said you came before the board.
In March, yes.
In March you did.
Sorry, in December.
And you came before the board and requested that you can put masks in your contract?
Yes, in December, and it was granted.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Any further questions or comments? Seeing none, Mrs. Tuttle, it looks as though the board is ready for the vote.
Mr. Rhodes?
Yes.
Thank you. Colonel Williamson?
Yes.
Thank you. Ms. Marati?
Yes.
Thank you. Mrs. Smith?
Yes.
Thank you. Mr. Sampson?
Yes.
Thank you. Mrs. Sanderson?
Yes.
Thank you. Mrs. Luke?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carried.
I just want to thank our two charter schools for coming and preparing and doing all the effort to bring the information to the board. We appreciate your effort and your time this evening. Next, we have the adoption of the 2023-2024 academic school calendar. Core value, center everything we do on the student and student learning. The board received an overview of the two proposed 2023-2024 academic school calendar drafts, along with a summary of the public input and calendar guidelines at the April 19th, 2022 regular meeting. The administration supports and recommends the adoption of option 2 as the 2023-2024 calendar. Can I get a motion, please?
Move to adopt option 2 as the 2023-2024 academic school year calendar.
Second.
Thank you. Before I move to administration, is there anyone in the audience that would like to give testimony to this item of business? Seeing none, public testimony is closed. Mrs. Moline, anything from administration?
We have nothing further.
Board comments, questions? Seeing none, Mrs. Tuttle.
Colonel Williamson?
Yes.
Thank you. Mr. Rhodes?
Yes.
Thank you. Mrs. Sanderson?
Yes.
Thank you. Ms. Marati?
Yes.
Thank you. Mrs. Smith?
Yes.
Thank you. Mr. Sampson?
Yes.
Thank you. Mrs. Luke?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carried.
Thank you. Next on our agenda is information and reports. Board Ad Hoc Committee report on policies 236 to 236.2, Board and Administrative Committees to advise administration and school board. Core value, engage with students, family, and staff. Community supports student success. The board's ad hoc committee of April Smith, Aaron Marati, and Choya Sanderson reviewed the current board policies on the board and administrative committees. Mrs. Smith will provide a report on the ad hoc committee's work and recommendations. Mrs. Smith.
Thank you. I just want to thank Ms. Marati and Ms. Sanderson, as we met several times at length to discuss this issue. It was brought to our attention that the committee's charges are not clearly defined, and we understand that, and we did not come to define those charges at this time. We spent our time focusing on each individual committee, whether we should keep that committee as a board committee or recommend it as an administrative committee or dissolve that committee. And then we also discussed if any committees that we do keep, what their makeup should be and how we should determine who sits on those committees. So I will just start there. Our first topic of consideration was that our committees are too large. Any committees that we do keep, we generally have between 16 and 19 people on our committees. And looking at other large school districts in the state, there are very few committees, and the committees they have no, almost all of them have no members besides board members, and being 3 of them. So our committee system is quite elaborate, and we felt that it was in our interest for any committees that we do keep, that all committees be reduced to 10 members and having the same member structure on each committee. So we would keep a school board chair as determined by the board president, non-voting. Keep an admin who would also serve as the exempt member. And then we would reduce the required number of teachers to 1, support staff to 1, principals to 1. Exempt staff would already be represented through the administrative position on the committee. And then we would also eliminate the distinction between parents and community members serving on the board. The parent positions would just be included as a general community positions, and then keep 1 student. We also were unclear and did not really resolve whether we had a tribal agreement that required us to have a tribal consultation member, but if so, we would include them in the 4 community members. And so the community members would include non-parents, parents of students, a tribal consultation, or any community members at large. And we just really want to express that the committee structure be the same for all the committees. And that committee, and in order to accomplish that, we would ask for all the committees to basically all members currently serving to reapply for admission to any committees that we retain this October. So for the committees, we decided that the audit committee we would remove as a committee. It's a very small committee, just a few members, and that it should be changed to a charge or function of the treasurer of the board. And then our legislative committee, we really had a lot of discussion on this, and we would advise that we keep it, but make it into a committee of the whole that having only a few board members serving on that committee is not really as effective, and that it's an extremely important part of our role as board members. And so we would like to have that as a committee of the whole, or recommend that as a committee of the whole. You'll see a trend that our committee is recommending to keep the committees as board committees. So the policy committee, we would recommend to keep it, but give it a more direct charge, such as the curriculum committee, where it has a set schedule, so that policies are addressed on a more regular basis, and that things move forward in a more organized manner with the policy committee. The budget committee, we really discussed, that we want to keep it, but it needs a lot of conversation regarding what it does if it remains as a board committee, possibly changing the title, but remaining fiscally related. But there definitely should be some kind of committee related to district finances that keeps the board informed and the public engaged in the process. For curriculum, I think that we are going to put this forward to keep, but it's really the softest recommendation to stay aboard committee, because our board bylaws do not clearly state that the board is responsible for curriculum, but we do spend about $1 million a year on curriculum. So some of the members just felt it was important that it does stay a board committee, but that recommendation was not as strong as the other recommendations to stay a board committee. The parent engagement, we felt that possibly that committee could, something related to that, more like communication and engagement committee, that it needs a really specific charge, and to really change the title so that it is not only focused on parent engagement, but more communication and engagement with the whole community. And that was really aligning with our strategic plan goal that has the same name of communication and engagement, so that they could assist the superintendent or CSA in just really communicating to the public. The diversity committee, members of our ad hoc committee felt that we needed to keep it in order to be aligned with our strategic plan, but that it could really use a title change, something that was not as politicized, or something that was just more in line with what their charge is, that their charge be defined more along the lines of keeping the district and the public informed on opportunity for students, instead of diversity being their focus. Not that they would not have an interest in diversity, but that keeping it as the name really gave it direction or intention that was too specific. So instead of diversity being their focus, we feel that the board just needs to maybe work on what we would want a committee that was engaging in that part of our strategic plan regarding opportunity, justice, diversity, equity, and those types of issues, but that it was something that really needed to be worked out more, relating to what we would want that board's charge to be. We also looked at what our application process would be. We agree that the current application process is okay, but that we need to maybe change the application questions to make them the same for all the committees, Some of the recommended questions we have listed here, such as what other organizations are you involved in? Why do you want to serve on this committee? What do you hope to accomplish? We listed off a lot of questions, but our recommendation is that the application questions be the same for all of the committees in order to just create a uniform process. We also recommended to change the appointment timeline. We recommend that the board only accepts applications in the month of October, and that the board chair would appoint committee chairs after we reorganize our board after the election. And then those committee chairs would select community members who applied during the month previous. Now, one thing that was not in the notes that we have here, I don't want to misspeak regarding the recommendation of the committee, but I recall that we were recommending to keep the applications in a first come, first served basis unless there was a flag or an issue. But that's definitely something that the board will need to address, because the system of choosing the applicants was really the crux of a lot of issues that we have suffered from over the last year regarding committees. So this is just my personal recommendation, was that they're first come, first serve, unless there wasn't a direct issue that the board member chair did not want to accept a person onto the committee. And then we would want to change all the admin regulation language to replace it when appropriate with, it says board chair a lot in there, and it was confusing language in our policy and our ARs, and we would want to replace that with committee chair in order to be clear that we're not talking about the school board president in those conversations. We also recommend that the committee chair provide, this is, I think, really one of the most important parts that came out of our ad hoc committee, was that we recommend that the committee reports are at every regular board meeting, and then it's added as an agenda an agenda item. So if there wasn't any meeting recently, there wouldn't need to be a report, but any committees that have met since our last meeting would, we think that it would be appropriate to have them actually in the agenda to just give a brief report. Right now, we're doing it during the board member comments, and sometimes we don't have time for that, and it also just doesn't seem like the appropriate place for that. Let's see. I also recommended that all committee meetings be allowed to be held virtually at the committee chair's discretion. So I would definitely say that there's a lot more work to be done regarding the committees, but these were just the things that came out of several meetings and really well-engaged conversations. So the ad hoc committee is recommending to keep pretty much all of the committees as board committees, with a soft recommendation on curriculum and the removal of the audit to a function of the treasurer, just in summary. And we would just like to really express that our main problem is that the committees need direct charge, and that we, as the board, should consider laying out their direct charge in our policy. And I wanted to really thank Ms. Marati, because she kept really great notes for our meetings and did a great job on that. And Ms. Sanderson for making a lot of time for those meetings at the time she didn't want. She still made time for us, so. Any questions?
Ms. Marotti?
I also want to thank Ms. Smith and Ms. Anderson for the time that they spent on this. It took several meetings to just get through this, halfway through the ask. So, and then a few things that I wanted to clarify. For the diversity committee, we all supported a change to the title of the committee, but not to change the focus, but just to change the title. And Ms. Anderson actually came up with a very good idea that might have been missed, and that was to use Indigenous words for opportunity, justice, diversity, equity, and inclusion. And if the board pleases, then that's something that we can look into. But I thought it was a really great way to honor our Indigenous cultures that are represented in our district. Another one, I don't recall recommending first come, first served basis for selecting applicants, and I appreciate Ms. Smith stating that it was a personal recommendation, and I would have to disagree with that way of accepting applicants. I think that we can be more thorough than that. And then that is all. So those are the two things that I wanted to clarify. But again, I appreciate everyone's work on this committee and look forward to doing more of it. Thanks.
Ms. Sanderson?
Yes, I'd like to thank Ms. Barati, Ms. Smith for the work on the ad hoc committee. And in reference to the title change for the diversity committee, it not to not talk about diversity, but we wanted to explore name change as more representation. Also, I have in conversation, I've sent emails out to a couple of our Native elders and also professors at the university and Alaska First Institute, Liz Medicine Crow. So I'm waiting back for some replies just to talk about language and some ideas along that line so that we can have and bring back just different information as we just talk about that, just for clarification for you. Thank you.
I want to say thank you to the three of you for spending a lot of time, excuse me, working on this. And I think that the board can agree that that streamlined process, especially with the ARs, making sure that all of the committees are similar in language and that they do have a specific charge, like you stated. Hearing this, I still have on the back of my mind AASB, Tiffany, kind of talking in the back of my mind, saying, you guys have the most committees I've ever seen. Like, you guys have the most committees in our state. You guys have the most committees and most charge or highest amount within the district or within the state. And I just sit there and I think about like how, or even with this being board committees, how we've had some committees not have quorum so that they couldn't have a meeting. And that all the work has to be done within the meeting as to not break the Open Meetings Act. And I'm speaking as myself that I'm hesitant about because of those items. There's still hesitancy there for me. Thoughts? Ms. Marotti?
I appreciate that. And we spent a lot of hours discussing what Miss Jackson from AASB said. She also said we had a lot of members on a lot of our committees, so we did reduce the number of members on each committee to honor the comments and feedback that was provided. Just to give you some context, though, maybe we do have a lot of committees compared to the rest of the state, but our committees are how we engage with our community, and so I look at it maybe not as a negative. It's how we are including stakeholders in our conversations, and without that, we lose a huge voice. And then also, Anchorage has local councils, so they may not have as many committees, but they have an obligation to meet with local councils across their communities. They're assigned to them, which is even more meetings and more time devoted to that than we do in our committees. And so they're just not called committees. They're called something else. So if you're going to compare us to other communities and other districts, it's an apples to oranges situation if you're looking at it that way.
Ms. Smith?
Okay. I just want to reiterate that our report is the result of the work that we did. And the further comments that I have are my own, not the comments of the committee. So I think that having committees as board committees is extremely restrictive and makes it difficult for them to engage and meet. I don't think it's doing a good service to most of the committees. I mean, of course, like the legislative committee being a committee of the whole is just a different story, but something like a community engagement committee, even the diversity committee reinvented, you know, it's been very hard for them to meet because, first of all, their lack of a real direct charge, and also because of having to meet the requirements of being a committee of the board. And that they probably could do some service to the admin department that is most relevant to their charge, you know, if they didn't have to meet the constraints of being a board committee. So that, I felt that way about pretty much all of the committees. I particularly feel that way about the curriculum committee. I don't know if Mr. Beam would agree with me, but my time that I spent on the committee, it seemed like there were things that being a board committee seemed to restrict their flow and their ability to do their business in their department. And that if they were not a board committee, they could meet more often or less often. They could meet at times that were not previously published for, you know, all of the restrictions that being a board committee has, and that it might allow them to do their work more efficiently. And doing work more efficiently should be one of our goals.
Mr. Sampson?
Thank you, Madam President. I'm not really sure what the argument is with the committees. If the committees are beneficial, we should put as few restrictions. We should minimize the restrictions to the furthest extent possible, which means that they should revert to administrative committee as opposed to a board committee, so as to not have to be restricted by red tape, specifically regarding notification to the public. Now, that's not necessarily to keep the public uninvolved. The whole point of, as was spoken to earlier, the whole point is community engagement. So as to say that that would be a reason to keep the public out is just disingenuous. What it would do is it would give latitude, great latitude to the committees so they could actually perform their work in an efficient manner. Having to inform the public ahead of time and being restricted in nature to what can be put on the agenda is prohibitive. And I think it's counterintuitive to what we're trying to achieve here. So for that reason, I would definitely give my support to turn the committees over to administrative. Now, if the whole point is because the board doesn't like the idea of the chair being someone that sits up here behind, with their name tag as a board member, then we can just change that. And even though it's an administrative committee, then the board member can chair it. That can be dealt with. Or the board member can have more of an active role or whatever the case. But the point is to get the most out of the committee, not to control the committee. So with that being said, I would support the majority of these committees reverting back to administrative control. Thank you.
Thank you. Can I get clarification just on one thing? So with the legislative committee, is this something that could possibly be dissolved and just utilized as a work session with those key stakeholders involved? Is that the recommendation, where it's just a work session?
If I can answer that, I don't actually think that is what we felt was important. I think that we felt it was important that it was still a public meeting, not just a work session, but that it was a committee of the whole, that all members were a part of that committee instead of just 3 members. The way that we approach the legislature is very important. Is one of our main duties is to communicate our needs to them and define what we do need. And I think it's more appropriate for that conversation to happen in public as a meeting, but not a regular board meeting, at a different time, in addition to our regular board meetings, but with all members' input and just a committee of the whole.
Thank you for the clarification. I just wanted to make sure I understood.
President Luke?
Yes, ma'am.
If I could, the board in previous years has acted as a committee of the whole in regard to the legislative committee. And Ms. Smith is exactly right. It's an additional meeting. It's open to the public. It involves all board members, includes all board members. It allows you as a committee to vote. Like at a work session, you can't vote, make decisions, but you as a committee as a whole could make a decision and to recommend to the board for an action. You then would take official action at a board meeting, but the committee would recommend just like any other committee, but you would have the input of all board members. And if it affected just the committee, of course, it would be, but like your priorities, you would bring that then to the public during a regular meeting. But to decide to travel to lobby the legislature, that would be your decision as a committee.
Okay, thank you so much. Any other thoughts from board members? Ms. Anderson?
I'll just say that after working on this segment of work, we did not want to impede any administrative work. I was on the curriculum committee before it was a board committee, and so I saw that process for them to do their work and then bring the recommendations for the board so that we could vote or do whatever that needed to be done. So a struggle for me personally is being on the diversity committee is under the Open Meetings Act. I wanted to get the committee together with COVID and all the things that we've struggled with. I wanted to just have a face-to-face, something that you can start to network and get to know the people that are on your committee. I'm not saying you can't do that in the meeting, but you have to post what you're going to do. And so that would be a struggle for me, either to go back under the administration and as a board, or try to figure out how to network it and make it a board, a committee that once we set the charges, that's going to help us move in the direction I think we need to move in concerning the committees. But at some point, some of it felt restrictive to me trying to get the work done that I was asked to do. So maybe I I was looking at it wrong, don't know, but I knew what my intent was. I knew what outcome I would have liked to have seen, and that was the real struggle for me. And I think it didn't serve the committee well. So that was the main reason for me to focus on it, to rework it so that it would produce what we wanted it to do.
Ms. Smith and then Ms. Marati.
Thank you. I think that in order to best continue this work, it's my opinion that we really need the admin people who are related to these committees to give us input regarding what the charge of these committees should be and whether they recommend them to stay board committees or administrative committees. I did not feel confident making those decisions without that input from each department. I mean, I can say how I feel about the curriculum committee, but without Mr. Beam saying, this is what would work best for me, and this is what I think that this committee's charge is in relation to my department. I mean, that's the decision-making tool that we need. And so I think that for the next part of this process, it is essential that the administrative department that is connected to these committees give some input.
Thank you. Ms. Marati?
Through the chair, Ms. Anderson, has the diversity committee experienced a lack of quorum? Has that been an issue for the diversity committee?
I'm not sure. I'd have to check with Miss Heather, but I think there have been a couple of times that we've waited to get people. The whole way of me coming into the chair of the diversity committee started off a very rocky period with someone being appointed to the committee that should have been my task to appoint them, and it wasn't. They got appointed, so that threw some things off. And so I did traveling. That we held the virtual meeting. It was a 4-hour difference for me, but we still conducted the meeting, and I believe we got business done. So it's just moving forward in some of the conversations that I've had with a couple of members of the diversity committee and trying to get some questions answered and the focus to where it needed to be. But there were, if I recall correctly, a couple of meetings where we had to wait for people to show and to be counted as a quorum. And I can have Ms. Christensen. Oh, I'm sorry. We were asking her about some past information on the committee.
Sorry, I guess that was my fault. I wasn't clear on my question. Have you ever not been able to hold a committee meeting, a diversity committee meeting?
Yes.
Due to a lack of quorum recently, since you've been the chair?
There have been a couple of meetings where we did not have a quorum, unless I stand corrected.
Okay, thanks.
Before we move forward, can I get a motion to extend?
Move to extend to 9:30.
Second.
Any opposed? Seeing none, we are extended until 9:30. I think with myself, I really appreciate what Mr. Sampson stated, is that we could keep it as an administrative committees in the AR stating that the agendas are created in conjunction with the committee chair, so that the committee chair can have the opportunity to be a part of the process on ensuring that the agenda is going forward together, that it's, because I believe that's how it was done when it was administrative committee. Am I correct with that, Ms. Tuttle? Yeah. So to ensure that we have the board member to be able to be a part of that process, to put things on the agenda and to put the agenda together, but also to allow the administration to get the work done that needs to get done I think that it would be beneficial for the board to allow these to go back to administrative committees. So it looks as though next steps would be to, I appreciate Ms. Smith's recommendation or opinion to ask the administrative, the admin for recommendations as to how they saw what they think would be a good idea for the committee. Also, I think one of the things that I constantly think of is that need for a direct charge of the committee. And if we can get maybe a recommendation from administration on those direct charges as well. And I would like to bring this back up sooner rather than later so we can talk through some of the other options that were brought up tonight. Does that sound like something that the board is amenable to? Okay. And goodness, I apologize, my throat is dry. And then maybe what we can do is get the ad hoc committee together again and have you work on what was recommended by the administration and what your thoughts on for the committees, the direct charge of the committees should be. Any further comments? Mrs. Moline, any further comments from administration?
No, not at this time.
Awesome, thank you. That was the last item of business on our agenda. Can I get a motion to?
Move to adjourn.
Second.
Any objection? Seeing none, meeting is adjourned.